Hello everybody, welcome back to the PokeCharms playthrough of Pokemon White. I'm Teapot, and with me today
is Cole, as always.
Hi Cole.
Hi mate.
Right, I've kind of forgotten a little bit what we were doing.
Playing a game that's actually good. That's what you're doing.
I can agree with that. I think I was off to go and fight the Dragon Gym, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think we're on the final gym of the game.
I think we are. We're not going that way. It has been a while since I've played a Pokemon game. Sorry, since I played Pokemon White this far. But should be interesting.
The girl who knows the hearts of dragons. She's a regular Targaryen. Knows the hearts of dragons. She's a regular Targaryen.
Yep.
And luckily there isn't many people here yet to be annoyed about me comparing Daenerys to Iris.
Wow.
It's not the most flattering comparison in the world, let's be honest.
Not really, no. So this is the less cool version of the gym, if I remember correctly. I think in Black and White 2 it changes to this nifty, like walking on the heads of dragons thing.
Yeah, I do remember that vaguely.
Yeah, they did that a lot in this generation. A lot of the Black and White 2 gyms were a lot more finished.
Yeah, they did fit their respective themes a lot better, I think, in the sequels than they did.
Yeah, I think they just had a bit more time to work on them, to be honest.
Yeah, like I think Elise's gym was one of the best example where, like, in this game it was just like a bunch of like rail cars, and it's like, what's that got to do with her?
Yes.
And then in Black and White 2 they changed it to a catwalk where you had to go through a gauntlet. Oh, that's gonna sting.
Yeah, that did. Right.
Yeah, Fracture's pretty strong. The entire line's pretty strong, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, I'm not wholly sure I'm actually ready for this gym, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I think the gym leader's got Haxorus at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it might just be this week's a lot of grinding, because this is the first trainer in the gym.
Yeah, it's the first trainer, and he's doing pretty well for himself. Let's. I mean, Flablet's still kind of ran him over.
Oh yeah. Right, I'm gonna go heal again before I move on. I definitely have to think about who and what I use for this particular gym.
Fortunately, there's no fairies yet.
No, that would be the easy option, wouldn't it?
It really would, but no can do.
No can do.
This game's probably the reason why the fairies ended up turning up in the first place, in all honesty.
That's probably true, yeah.
I mean, granted, it was a long time coming, because ever since Generation 4 we had problems with dragons being the best way to deal with dragons.
Yes, that's kind of my issue, is I don't have any dragons on my team.
Yeah, the last 2 times I played this, I pretty much grabbed an Axew from the cave like as soon as I could get it, and then trained it up, and then it just kind of stomped through the rest of the game for me.
Makes sense, yeah. I think my team's kind of set now, really, so just have to see what we can do with what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I
suppose
it depends.
yeah.
I mean,
I realised I went the wrong way around for no reason, but so let's see. I think, I mean, to be honest, just chucking Weeble at them seems to be an appropriate choice.
It kind of does. I think John Cena should be able to tank a few hits.
I've just noticed my trainer card is way out of date.
Yeah, it is actually, isn't it?
I don't know why it's that out of date. I've been updating it.
Fair, at least you have one.
That's true. Should probably sort that out for you at some point.
I don't know. I mean, they weren't invented in Gen 1.
That's true. Yes, you don't get graphics. Graphics were bugged.
Streaming as a whole, I don't think was invented back in Gen 1.
Not really, no. And you can't have graphics because they're bugged.
No, of course not. They're not there. The game crashed and deleted them.
Yep.
There's not enough memory space in the cartridge for it. See,
Yeah.
Dino's probably going to be the easiest thing to deal with in here because it has hustle.
Yeah. I think if nothing else, I might have to do a bit of grinding just to push the level up a bit, to be honest.
I mean, alternatively, Dino could just die in one hit.
Yep. That's a thing that it could do. Oh, it does have the whole running around on a dragon thing. It's just not as cool.
Yeah, they did it better in...
Yeah, it's alright. Remember me, the Pokemon... Oh, okay, fine.
What does this button do? Not a lot. Oh yeah, because I'm on a different account.
Ah.
So anyway, okay, yeah, Dragon Dance. That's gonna be pretty cool.
Oh, taunt. That's the best thing to do in this situation.
Why would you? So you go through all that effort of setting up Dragon Dance and then you use Taunt.
Yes, apparently that's a thing that the AI thinks is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. If you want to lose, get out of it. I mean,
It's got another one. Maybe it can try again.
Yeah, let's see if it learned. Let's see if it learned from its mistake. Hope for your sake it hasn't, because if that thing Dragon Dance starts sweeping, you might have a bit of a problem on your hands.
That's true. Oh, it's Dragon Dancing again.
Okay, let's see what happens now. Will it actually do the right move?
Yes, it will this time. Oh dear.
Yeah, give it time. I'm sure it'll. Yeah, that's what it should have done the first time.
Yes. Now I have a problem.
Well, unless it decides to use Taunt on you again.
That's true.
So John Cena could tank it.
Oh, yep. Okay, that was a bad choice. I was hoping I could get Dig in first. I can't.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you had Intimidate, that probably would have worked.
Ah, there we go. There's the taunt.
Old habits die hard, I guess.
Just can't resist using taunt. Just in case I might decide to do something other than hit it.
Yeah, so, fuck you, I just killed 2 of you Pokemon.
Yeah,
and then it loses.
Yep.
Gives a lot of experience, though, I'll give it that.
It really does. I am going to do the dreadfully boring thing of... there we go. I'm going to go out and heal between every trainer, I think, because I think I'm going to need to.
At this rate, yeah. I wonder if Iris has Dragon Dance.
Probably.
Probably.
I think Iris is actually a bit of a problem in these games. In that she's actually fairly...
Well, I guess. I mean, I don't really remember. I don't remember that bit in that. But then again, I suppose I did have Haxorus, so that kind of makes it a little bit easier to deal with her.
Yeah, I mean purely in terms of the AI actually remembering how to AI occasionally.
Yeah. That does, not to deflect away from your stream or anything, but that does actually become a factor in the red and blue, in the red stream.
Hmm.
What they call smart AI and dumb AI. And you learn quite quickly that the, well, that's what they call it, but you learn quite quickly that the smart AI is actually the dumb one.
Ah. Is it possibly glitched?
No, it's another oversight.
Ah.
To put a long story short, the smart AI will look at the typing of your Pokemon and the typing of its moves, and then use the move that has the super effective type against you.
Right.
The problem is the smart AI doesn't actually bother to check if that move does damage.
Ah.
So you can beat Lance's Dragonite by sending out a level 3 Zubat. Because all Dragonite will do is spam agility, because it's a psychic type move. And in Generation 1, all the NPCs have infinite PP for their moves, so it'll never run out of PP for agility, so it'll just use it forever. And you can just kill it with leech life.
That's quite impressive.
Or well, or more accurately, kill yourself by struggling to death. But you know,
well, yeah.
I mean, if you wanted a slightly more dependable way of doing it, you could just use Weedle and spam Poison Sting. Unless he's got like a fire type move, which I don't think it does. But yeah, point is you can do some silly stuff. In order to, you know, deal with that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you don't have that luxury here.
No, I have to actually win the game the proper way.
Yeah.
Oh well. Oh, that did a lot of damage.
Yeah, it did.
Nearly killed myself a recoil there. There's the downside to Flare Blitz.
Oh yeah, there's me. I'm gonna need to give my new account details for this, because you don't actually know what my new account is on stream. Just thought. I'm not going to try and say it because it's not going to be of any use whatsoever, because then you won't be able to spell it.
Fair enough. Oh, okay, not going this way. Oh, I guess it wants me to go back at this point.
I was going to say, can't you just jump that?
Yeah, you can. I was just checking everything else first, just in case.
No, I meant like, it wouldn't theoretically your character be athletic enough to jump from the dragon's head?
Oh yeah, so almost certainly, yeah.
This guy looks shady as hell.
He really does.
And there's Druddigon. A lot of these guys have only got like one Pokemon.
Yeah.
This guy might hurt a bit if he's got rough skin.
Oh, he does.
And Druddigon's got pretty good defense as well.
Yeah, I might have to think of a different strategy here. Yep, not that strategy.
Yeah, he's going to claw your face off.
Okay. I have to hope I can just stall it out with John Cena.
I mean, to be fair, Druddigon's slow as hell anyway, so... Like most things in this region.
Yes. But at least it's not a loader, I suppose.
Hmm.
Ooh, that worked. Oh, that was... Yep. I survived that just. No, I didn't.
Yeah, he's got rough skin still.
Double KO.
Well, at least... Well, Druddigon did pretty well for himself.
Yeah, he did. Right, let's use all these revives I bought for...
Oh boy.
Here we go. Oh, no, that's not what I was.
Yeah, you kind of gone backwards there.
I did, and now I have to do it again because I've just...
I would just like to point out that in the real world, this whole place would be a massive health and safety violation due to the fact there's no safety rails on anything.
Yep, that would be a problem.
So, you know, how many people are going to fall off and die?
Too many, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So, there's been another extremely silly rumour come out today, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, what's that?
It's about the Switch. Allegedly, and this should be taken with enough salt to sink the Titanic, Nintendo are planning a new revision of the Switch for early next year.
Okay.
Apparently, it will be kind of like almost like a pro revision. So it will be more graphically powerful. It'll have, I think, 8 gig of RAM, 128 gig of storage on board, up from, I think, 32 they give you in the current one. The weird thing about it is that it will basically be graphically advanced, kind of like the new 3DS was over the 3DS, DSi was over the DS, etc. So
Yeah.
they are saying that all Nintendo games will continue to support both, but some third-party games might not.
That sounds incredibly crap.
Yeah, I think that's the bit that I don't truck, unless it's literally like,
It's the Sega 32X, basically.
yeah, if it's weird because it's only 2 years to the Switch's lifespan, and
Yeah, I can't see them doing that.
yeah, I can't either, and the only reason why is because while I fully expect a Switch revision eventually, probably sooner rather than later, I do honestly think that, like, firstly, it's more than a year out. I think it's more than early next year. I think it'll be like 2020-ish.
Yeah.
And I think there will be some sort of graphical upgrade, because I think they'll have to be by that point. But I think they'll work very, very, very hard not to break compatibility.
Yeah, I can't see them breaking the compatibility, to be honest with you.
Yeah, even if you assume that, you know, some third-party games basically means Monster Hunter and nothing else, it's still a really bad precedent to set.
Well, I think as well, Nintendo generally like to prolong the lifespan of their consoles as much as they possibly can.
They do.
So undercutting the Switch by making it so that certain games on a new variant of it can't be played on the old one is very, very unlike them.
Yes. I mean, it has happened, you know, several times already, but at the same time, it's rare. It's not... We've never had... I mean, how many games were there that were new 3DS only? I can only think of one. Oh, no,
I don't
two.
even know which one that is.
There was... What was it? It was the Xenoblade Chronicles port
Yeah.
for new 3DS. That was exclusive. And I think it was the Hyrule Warriors port. But I don't think...
Okay, so two games I'd never play anyway, Nate.
Yeah, exactly. But none of the others were new 3DS kind of required.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I would say that if they were going to make a graphically enhanced Switch, there's already games out now that probably would have benefited from that back then anyway.
Yeah.
Case in point, Doom.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of is one of the strongest arguments as to why they might do it.
I mean, I'll be honest, Doom does not... It runs fine on the Switch, but it runs a lot better on everything else.
It does. It runs acceptably on the Switch, I think. I don't think you can really give it more credit than that.
No, and to be honest with you, it's as good as you could ask for when it's on something that can be used as a handheld. Let's be honest.
That's it. I mean, the only thing that I think is kind of the real sore point with this, it only runs at 30 frames a second rather than 60 on everything else.
Yeah, I think that's a problem though that you run into with games like Doom, is that the overall quality of the game depends a lot on the power of the system that you're running it on.
Definitely, yeah.
Like, because on the Switch it runs, but it's not great.
Yeah.
On the Xbox One, it runs great, But then you run it on a PC, and then you realise, oh, good lord, it smashes the Xbox out of the water.
Yeah.
And that's not just because you're using a keyboard and mouse either. It's because everything just runs smoother and faster on there.
It does. You get that 60 lock.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for.
And for me, it's the same with Destiny 2. Like, I mean, I still primarily play it on the Xbox One because all the people that I know play it on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
And it's a primarily social game, really. You know, you need to be playing it with other people. You can't play by yourself and expect to get very far.
Yeah.
You know. But when you run it on the PC, you kind of realise how, wow, it runs so much better on the PC. It's like almost insulting
Yeah.
as to how inferior the Xbox One is to, you know, your average game. Not even like the average game PC, even ones from like, you know, even older ones, you know, like from like 3 or 4 years ago can still outclass the Xbox One by a considerable margin in performance.
Yeah. And the load times as well, which is kind of important for something like Destiny because it's online.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, the load times on the PC are like, it's like day and night. Like, to load a basic zone, Destiny 2 on the Xbox takes about, well, for my Xbox, because it's not an Xbox One X, it's like a normal one.
I think
It takes
they're
about
the same
20 seconds.
Yeah.
20 seconds to load in the zone. Do it on the PC with an SSD, it takes less than 5.
Yeah. Now,
So it's not even like it's slightly better, it's like several times better.
Yeah, now granted that is an SSD, but even so, most...
That's a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think most gaming PCs have an SSD in these days. I don't know if it's...
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as many as most, but like, a decent chunk do.
Yeah,
And
I
it
mean,
does...
even without an SSD, because I've even done it without an SSD, and the PC still outstrips the Xbox by a massive margin, even
I can
without
imagine,
the SSD.
yeah.
Though.
Well,
You know, with an SSD, it's just like beating a dead horse, really. It's like, well, you've just made it even more ridiculous now.
Yeah, well, on
And
PC,
SSDs are not expensive either.
I know on PC I found that I was able to kind of jump into the menu quickly
Yeah.
in the middle of something to
The
say...
funny thing is, that does actually impact gameplay
I bet, yeah.
quite a lot, because it allows you to switch up things on the fly, which you can't do on the Xbox. Like, one thing that someone mentioned that they like to do on the PC is there's an item called Celestial Nighthawk for hunters,
Right.
which it affects the golden gun. Well, basically, golden gun fires 1 shot instead of 3,
Right.
but that shot does 6 times damage.
Wow, okay.
Normally, you're intended to pop your super and then just fire the gun.
Yeah.
That was the intended way, that you just get the 1 shot. But on the PC version, you can exploit it, because what you can do is pop the regular golden gun, fire the first 2 shots, go into the menu, put the helmet on, the Nighthawk, and then fire the 6-time shot.
Right, yep.
Not on the Xbox, there's no way you're going to be able to do that, because by the time the menu's even loaded, your super's already been used up because of the time limit on it. And Golden Gun doesn't last very long. But because of how fast the PC loads the menu, you can go in there and just go bang, bang, done.
Yeah.
Like, in a split second, you know, as long as you know where everything is, you can just a few clicks and, you know, you've got it. You know, I don't think obviously they've not intended for people to actually do that, and it does still require a fair bit of, you know, finger speed to pull it off.
Yeah, you've got to click really fast.
Yeah, but the point is the PC is powerful enough to let you pull it off. That's the whole point.
It's very, yeah. It's kind of amazing just how slow it is on the Xbox. I've seen footage.
It really
and it's
is.
just...
Like, it's frustratingly slow on the Xbox, because it's kind of disappointing, really, because there is some things that you could do with the menu switching that's actually kind of cool. Like, especially as a warlock, when you've got the rifts, you've got the rift that heals you, and you've got the rift that, you know, boosts weapons.
Oh yeah.
Well, on the PC version, you can kind of switch between the 2 rifts as you're going along in the middle of a fight.
Wow.
As and
Yeah.
when you need them, and you can switch between the exotic items. Like, you could switch because there's one exotic where if you're surrounded by enemies, it charges up your rift really fast. So you can keep that on, and then on the PC version, you could be like, oh right, in the middle of a fight, oh, I've got my rift up. So take it off, put another item on that makes your rift even stronger, instead of the one that boosts it up because you've already got it, you know, charged up.
Yeah.
And you can just do that on the fly. You know, the amount of switching around in the menu that you can do in the middle of a battle on the PC version that you can't do on the Xbox One, or the PS4 for that matter, makes a big difference to how you approach certain aspects of the game.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And again, it's not intended. It's not like the PC. The PC version is the exact same game in every way,
Yeah.
but because of the increased performance that the PC allows you, it's played in a different way.
Right.
And I think I think it is. I think developers, especially for consoles, are probably going to have to start considering stuff like that going forward. You know, just how much performance of the console is going to affect how people will then play the game and how they're going to be able to do things. You know, because I mean, normally. I mean, it's been years. For the previous generations, I never really cared much about the power of the console I was using, you know.
Yeah.
But after seeing, you know, what you can do on the PC version, how much that gap actually makes a difference in how you do certain things in the game, I do think that console developers especially are going to have to start thinking about, you know, stuff like that going forward and how the power of their console is going to affect, you know, the games that are on there.
Yeah.
And how, you know, even though technically it is the same game, the difference in system is how much of a difference is that going to make? Because on the PC now we're seeing that difference really, really strongly.
We are, yeah. I think the biggest sort of thing where the consoles are lagging behind the PC right now is, I think, as like I was saying, I think a lot of gaming PCs have some form of solid state drive in them, and that makes a huge difference to loading times. Which is one of the places where consoles still lag behind the PC. One of the few.
Yeah.
But SSDs are still kind of expensive. If you're looking...
Yeah. I mean, as I say, it's obviously going to be a case of like weighing up the cost of the, you know, the components.
Yeah.
And how much is it going to, and how much of a difference is that going to make in the long run? I mean, at the end of the day, for me, the thing that sells the consoles is the game library.
I agree, definitely.
More than the console itself. You know, you can have the most powerful console in the world, and if the games library is nothing to write home about, nobody's going to buy it. You know, we've seen that many times before, where somebody's released like a super powerful console. Even it's been done in the past, where you had like games like, you know, like, or consoles like the the Jaguar.
Yeah.
The Atari Jaguar, which was said to be like 4 times more powerful than anything on the market at the time, and yet it flopped because the library games on it was just not good at all.
Yeah, I think that's going to become even more important going forward because of the whole backwards compatibility push that Xbox has been doing.
Yeah.
And it's like Nintendo just sitting there in the corner going, we only just stopped doing that. But
yeah, I mean, I think, although to be fair, in Nintendo's defense, I don't think it was a case of they wanted to stop doing that, and more a case that they kind of had to.
Yeah, they did. It's not their fault that they stopped, for sure. But,
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, the Switch is like completely different to the Wii U and the Wii in pretty much every way. You know,
it's was.
Like, you can't really you can't really do backwards compatibility with the Switch. You know, because it's just not going to work. There's no way of doing it. It's as simple as that. The Xbox One doesn't really have an excuse, as far as I can tell.
No, I agree.
I feel like they could have done it and then just chose not to.
I think it's one of those things, though, where while they had backwards compatibility, Nintendo always had a huge advantage with it, because they could always stand there and say, yeah, your old games still work. Oh, God. This is
going to be a war of attrition, isn't it?
I think it might be, yeah, which is not ideal. But I think now you've got Microsoft, which have kind of cottoned onto this and kind of going, okay, you can now play every game on every you know, on the Xbox One, you can play every single game that we've ever, you know, in the Xbox's library, backwards and forwards.
I mean, granted, I still wouldn't, because, you know, there isn't really much from back then that I don't have access to on the PC, in all honesty. Which, again, is another problem that the consoles run into versus the PCs, is how much access you have to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about a PC's games library, it's like, well, where do you start and where do you end?
Yeah, it's basically, you get back far enough where you have to start using stuff like DOSBox.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can.
You can, very much so.
You know, there's no limit to how, there's not really any limit to how backwards compatible you can make a PC, really. I mean, yeah, you kind of have to cut a few corners and start doing a few things, and, you know, but the point is you can still do those things.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I've seen, so I was talking about, Turing's Passage yesterday, where, you know, people now are playing it on the current PCs, and by finding ways where, you know, you can get it to work on there.
Yeah.
You know, or in some of the other ones where, because one thing that Sierra did, in hindsight, you might consider this a bit of a foolish idea, but although I suppose at the time you wouldn't have it wouldn't have really had any impact anyway. But a lot of the Sierra Adventure games relied on events that worked off of an internal timer.
Right.
So the PC timed it basically, but rather than putting it on a fixed timer, like say, oh yeah, you've got 2 minutes to do this, the timer the amount of time it gave you was based off of the machine's processing speed.
Oh yeah.
So on a PC of the age, it would be like, okay, you've got 5 minutes to do this. Try doing that on a PC now, bang, you've run out of time in an instant before you can even do anything.
Yeah.
Because the PC has just loaded it that fast. So what they then had to do is, again, they found a way of getting around that. Is there was a way of dialing down the speed at which the PC ran the game.
Yeah, it was
so that the PC
artificially limiting your processor speed.
Yeah, so you could bring the processing speed down so that it matched the PC that it was intended to run on in the first place, and then you could actually get past that part because it was running at a reasonable, amount of time.
Yeah.
But the point is, again, is with the PC, there's pretty much always a way of finding, there's always a way to play these games, to go back. And with the way the consoles have been going, it's just, that's not happening, really.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, you're doing pretty well in this fight.
Yeah, let's keep going. I'm trying to think if I need to switch out and spam potions and stuff, but...
I mean, to be fair, if you could paralyze this Haxorus, that's probably going to go a long way.
That's true. I've also only got 1 Flare Blitz left, so let's make it count.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't hit you first.
Dragon Dance. So.
Ooh, that could be a problem.
That could very much be a problem, yeah. I think I will have to paralyze this guy.
It might be too late to paralyze him, honestly.
Might be.
So you might not let you get a turn now.
Oh, I'm still faster than him for some reason.
Really?
I know he's used.
Would you use Dragon Tail?
Yeah, he did just now. Yeah,
that's why. Dragon Tail always goes last.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah, if he uses if he uses Dragon Tail when you send out what's it?
Is it Zeb Striker?
There's no point in healing True Horse. He's going to die anyway.
Yeah, but I think he'll probably die before I can use Thunder Wave. But we'll see what happens.
Well, to be fair, he'll die. He's going to die in 1 hit regardless of whether he's on full health now. So I'll just say use Thunder Wave and hope he uses Dragon Tail or a non-offensive move.
Nope.
And he has not done either. I didn't realise he had Assurance.
Interesting.
That's weird because Assurance actually does better if you go second.
Yeah, that's a bit of a weird thing to choose. Right. Am I going to be able to survive a hit off this Haxorus?
I mean, Body Slam can paralyze.
Yeah, good point. Let's try that. Oh, another Dragon Dance.
Just try and paralyze him. I would just power hacks now. I don't even care.
Yeah, it's like, on the one hand, oh no. On the other hand, hey, power hacks!
That'll work.
I'll take it.
Boom, there you go. I mean, he might still be faster than you because you're slow as hell, but...
He is, but he just used Slash rather than anything actually dangerous. There we go.
There we go.
I have 8 gem badges.
Nice. See, don't underestimate the status effects in the game.
They're really, yeah.
And John Cena is the champ, and he is an adult 42.
Nice. We fought Jim, get badge.
I'll be honest, I would honestly say that she was probably easier than everything that came forward, just by virtue of the fact that she was using Dragon Tail instead of Dragon Claw.
Yes. I think you're right.
If she was using Dragon Claw, then I think she probably would have ripped your face off.
Yeah. I think because I managed to get that power hacks, I think I probably would have died. I would have just had no chance had it managed to hit.
Yeah.
Had I managed to, had it not been paralyzed there.
Yeah, but luckily it was, so...
Still.
Here's a Glasses dude congratulating you on...
Yep.
Yeah, he does give you like a bottle of water after every single, before every single gym fight.
I'm off to Victory Road now, I guess.
Wait, hang on. She came over here to tell you how to summon the legendary dragon, and she literally says, I don't actually know how to do this. What a waste of a trip.
Oh, Master Ball. Yay, that would be useful, I'm sure.
I mean, to be fair, you probably won't need to use it on the Reshiram or Zekrom anyway, because his catch rate's quite high.
Yeah.
Quick Claw will probably work on him.
Probably. That'd be a bit anticlimactic.
There's not really anything else to use the Master Ball on in this game.
Yeah, I was thinking of just using it anyway, just because I'm not really going to be mucking around, you know, trying to catch all the legendaries or anything.
Yeah, I mean, who really cares, let's be honest.
Wow, exactly. For streaming purposes, it's better just to actually get through the game.
Pretty much, yeah.
I probably will do some of the post-game stuff, but it'll be the actual content rather than, say, finding legendaries.
Well, in this game, you only get one Master Ball, and like in Pokemon Red and Blue, you can get lots of them.
We're not supposed to be able to, but you can.
Yeah, you can. That's the point.
Isn't it? I think it's Black and White too, where you get more. You can get more than one.
Yeah, I think there is. I think you can get a second one. I can't remember exactly how you do it though. And this is the route to... Is it going to Victory Road now?
I think we are going to Victory Road now. We'll call a Rufflet. I'm not going to catch one, but cool.
Wait, is that where Fungus lives?
Yes. Yeah, it is, yeah.
So Fungus is probably one of those dudes.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to actually just rearrange my team so I'm actually training the ones that...
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to level up the dudes that saw absolutely no action whatsoever in that gym.
Yeah. Basically Anakin and Lord Smugleaf, and to a lesser extent the horse.
But the horse tried.
It made an attempt. No, to be fair, it got the paralysis off on Drudigen, so...
Yeah, it did. Is that like his whole thing now, where he's just like literally a Thunderwave bot?
I think so, yeah.
Oh well.
I mean, it's supposed to... he's allegedly relatively fast, so I could sort of pop off a, you know, something or other. Some attack.
I can hear a Star Wars prequel trilogy film downstairs.
That's an interesting choice of film.
I think they're airing them like on one of the film channels. I can't remember.
Oh, I see. Makes sense. Yeah, it's quite funny. Disney don't actually have the TV rights to the Star Wars films.
Really?
Yeah, they've sold them off to someone else, and they basically that someone else won't give them back. So the Star Wars won't be on Disney's own streaming service when it starts up.
To fair, why would you give them back?
Well, exactly. I think basically they would have. Basically, if it were me, I would have done exactly what they did, which is sure for a very, very large check.
Yeah, it would have to be a very, very, very large amount. I mean, if I had the rights to Star Wars films, I'd be like, yeah, I'm keeping these.
Yeah, well, they've got them until, I think, 2022 or something. Because they only signed the deal in 2016. And, yeah, it's like, I think the money they paid for it was quite good. So I think they basically, I think it probably just took that figure and doubled it, to be honest.
Pretty much. I mean, if they're wanting to buy that stuff off me, I would like, unless I see 9 zeros in this figure, this ain't
probably exactly what they did, to be honest. Just because if Disney won't pay it, then it's a very large amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. It's Star Wars. It's not unreasonable to ask for billions to sell it to someone.
That's true.
Unless it's Battlefront, in which case, you know.
Yeah,
in Battlefront's case, you'd have to pay me billions to take it off you.
Makes you wonder if EA will be keeping the license. Ooh.
I honestly hope they don't, because they've basically just crapped on it.
Yeah, I think Activision had it before though, so it's kind of like one of the big three will get it, so it's more of a pick your poison type deal.
Yeah. I mean, I generally don't feel that Activision are quite as bad as EA, but...
Depends on what you're talking about, really.
Well, it's like saying which is worse out of, like, going blind or having both your arms cut off.
Fair enough.
They're both horrendously bad.
Yeah, that's fair. I tend to find that EA are, like, evil, but try. You get what I mean? This Scrafty is making a meal out of me.
Scrafty's pretty awesome, I'll be honest.
The fact that it's got Moxie is not helping me here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose on the plus side, he's slow. John Cena should like smash his face in those. To be fair,
I think so.
he's good to find.
Now you've stopped using high jump kick. Oh wow, you used scary face on me.
John Cena does not fear the scary face.
No.
He's a champ. He doesn't fear anything. There you go.
That was simple enough.
Scratchy's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like him.
I'll be honest, all the fighting types in this generation were pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Even though I sometimes forget that throw and sock actually exist.
They are kind of forgettable, aren't they?
Just a bit. I mean, I get what they were trying to do. They're like the Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan of the game, but...
Yeah, I think the idea was that they were trying to replicate the original Pokédex, roughly, anyway.
Yeah.
As if they were going to do it again, you know. And so they needed their sort of...
They did a decent job, I would say, overall.
Yeah.
There's not many lines in Generation 5 that I don't like.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is impressive given how many of them there are.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few that are just kind of like...
There's a few very forgettable ones, like, say, Basculin.
Yeah, Basculin's
It's like,
very...
okay, I know it's there because it needs to be, and it's got a gimmick, and it's all cool and everything, but it's...
There needs to just be a fish, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And Basculin fills the role of being the fish.
It does at that.
They
should have just put Magikarp in. Like, just for lols, the only non-Unova Pokemon.
Yeah, to be fair, that'd be kind of lame.
Yeah. I think most of the creatures of this generation I do genuinely like, though.
Yeah, there's only a few where I kind of think, what's the point in you even being here?
Yeah. Oh god, another fracture.
Like, Unpheasant and Watchog can just go away.
Yeah. Watchog is just annoying because he keeps spamming Hypnosis.
Yeah, it's literally just there to be a pain. Which I suppose is at least you remember it.
Yeah.
Unpheasant may as well just not exist. But at least all the others, it's like it's there's something interesting to it.
Yes.
Even if it's not particularly interesting at all, it's something different.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the case where there are clones because they kind of have to be.
Yeah.
But at the very least, most of them are done relatively interestingly. I really wish I kind of wish Talonflame was in this generation.
So do I.
Because
if Talonflame was in this generation, it would be pretty much perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, because they kind of missed the trick when it came to saying, okay, let's, do a whole new generation of Pokemon. But they should have at least tried to make them all uniquely interesting.
Speaking of uniquely interesting, we have an electric type Levitate.
Yes! So up until Gen 6, completely without weakness.
Well, I suppose you have Mold Breaker, but...
Well, yes.
Well, to be fair, you had Mold Breaker in this as well. Mold Breaker was pretty much the only way of getting landing weakness against it. Unless you had some way of pulling it down to the ground.
Yeah, so... I mean, you can try using Flare Blitz on me. I suppose that's an idea.
Interesting idea, but...
Yeah, it's an idea. It's not a good idea, but it's an idea.
Yeah, true. To me, first, it's actually a pretty cool move. It's just, it's not the easiest thing to actually use effectively.
Yeah. I think it's just far too situational.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, here's a thing. Sorry, I just completely remembered out of nowhere because you mentioned situational moves. What would you think if they... Sorry, there we go. If they decided for the next Pokemon games they were going to change things up and they were going to kind of mess around and they were going to increase the move limit to 6, so you could have 6 moves rather than 4. Would you think how do you think that would work?
That would change. That would make things very, very different.
Yeah.
Even if you increased it to just 5, that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, the reason I say 6 is just because it's a nice round number, but obviously 5
Yeah, it fits
would
on the screen better, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make a massive difference. I don't necessarily think it would be a good one.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like it would be a lot more, because the thing is obviously it's one of those things where you have to be very, very careful with. It's a lot like changing the type alignments.
Yeah.
And doing stuff like that and adding new types. You have to be so careful with what you're doing with it. And to their credit, with Fairy type, they pretty much did it spot on.
They did.
They did exactly what they needed to do, and it was fine. But that could have very easily gone wrong.
Yeah, very much
Very,
so.
very easily gone wrong if they hadn't been careful. And I do feel like some of the changes that they have made outside of the Fairy type, they probably shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Most notably, removing Steel's resistance to Ghost, I think was an overall bad idea. Because now Ghost is pretty awesome as a type on both defensively it falls foul to Pursuit and Sucker Punch, so you can get trapped against things.
Yeah.
But other than that, you've got two immunities, and you have a type for attacks that's resisted by Dark and Normal.
Yeah.
And is neutral to everything else pretty much, and super effective against Psychic and itself.
Oh, that was silly.
Yeah, stop using Leech Seed on them.
Yeah, that was a silly move. Yeah.
See, now the Cactus is confused at what you were doing. It's so confused that you're
It's gonna stop.
actually confused itself.
Yes. It's going to start punching itself.
Yeah.
It does not understand.
This is what you should be doing. To me. There, that's what you should be doing.
Well, that's my lesson learned, isn't it? You know, he's taught me well.
But back to the point, yeah, I think you want to be very. I don't necessarily, as I say, I don't think it'd be a good, especially at this late stage in the series. I'm not sure if that would be a good idea to do, just for the fact that one, it's not really necessary,
Yeah.
and two, you could very easily end up doing more harm than good.
I think so.
I think I'm not a big fan of change for the sake of change.
Yeah.
I never really have been. Just for the simple fact that it can very easily backfire. You know, if you're changing something, you need to be changing it because it's in its current state, it's not working as well as it should be.
Yes.
You know, that's why I've been a strong advocate for changing the way that EVs and IVs work, especially IVs.
Yeah.
You know, getting rid of that entirely, I think, would benefit the game.
I think so. I think you kind of have the issue where if they get rid of IVs, they'll probably want something to replace them with.
I don't mind having something to replace them with. The issue that I have with them at the moment is they are probably the biggest gate to new players joining the competitive scene.
I completely agree. Like,
That's a problem.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of an impossible problem because you've got to have some way of differentiating different Pokemon within the same species. You know, not every, I don't know, Superior should be exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, apart from its natures. But at the same time, the moment you start saying, oh yes, this number is between 0 and 31, the competitive side are going to look at it and go, well, okay, 31 is the minimum.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that you run into, because in order to get to the point where everything is at 31, that requires a lot of time.
It does.
And a lot of resources within the game that you've got to make yourself, you know. And a lot of people, especially casual players, they're not going to be willing to do that. Just the fact that it's taking so long to get something, and you don't even know if it's really going to make a benefit in the long run. I mean, you've still got to test that team. You've got to hope that it works. So if it doesn't, how many hours have you just wasted, pretty much? And, you know, so, and to me, changing that would be a good thing.
Yep.
Because the fact that, you know, it's an older mechanic that really isn't doing anything beneficial anymore.
No, I think it needed to be... You've either got to have something that is either relatively cosmetic or something where there is strategy behind how you choose it. You know,
I mean, if you look at it now, even like in Sun and Moon, with the bottle caps. No, the bottle caps don't just increase your IV to 31. They outright ignore. They don't actually change it. That's the thing. Like for stuff like hidden power, it doesn't actually change what the original IV is. It just treats it as though it's 31 in terms of stats.
Yeah.
So you've already got an item that basically ignores the whole mechanic. Especially the golden bottle cap pretty much just outright does ignore it.
Yeah, it does.
So if you know full well that people are going to want these bottle caps in order to ignore this mechanic, why the hell is it still there?
Yeah. I think it was kind of a half measure type thing, wasn't it?
It seems like half. And to be fair, if this is how it is, and it might not be, but if it was sort of intended as like a half measure in going forward in an attempt to eventually remove it entirely,
yeah,
then fair enough. But
I get the impression it probably was. I mean, either that or they genuinely thought that was the way to address the problem, which
it isn't.
It isn't. Yeah, it doesn't really bear thinking about.
Unless you literally give everybody tons of bottle caps, you know, and have like the Pokemarts just sell them.
Yeah, I mean, if they were like rare candies where they were relatively rare, but there was a way to get them. Oh, not rare candies, heart scales. But yeah, you would end up.
You don't have to work towards them, but you could theoretically get an infinite amount of them.
Yes.
If you invested the time into doing so, then yeah, okay, fair enough. But even then, it's still like, well, you've now got this item that you're letting people get tons of to ignore this mechanic that you put in. Why don't you just get rid of the mechanic?
Yes, I do think so, and I almost wonder if... No, I don't know. Thing is, this again, it feels like a half measure, but maybe have a system where your stats are redistributed rather than completely, you know, just rather than having a 0 IV, this stat is rubbish. It's a case of all your stats are good, but it just, say, boosts 1 or 2 depending on...
Yeah, I think you kind of need to go all the way or not at all, I think, really.
Yeah. I mean,
the point is that I can understand what IVs were there initially, because in Generation 2 at least, they determined a lot more than just stats.
Yeah.
They were used to determine the Pokemon's gender as well. Which interestingly resulted in a common theme where a male Pokemon's attack would be higher and a female Pokemon's defenses would be higher. Because it wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily intentional.
No,
I don't think it was at all.
I think it was just a quirk of the algorithm, wasn't it? You can't.
Yeah, it was just an output. I mean, at the end of the day, something like that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, if you link them both to the same number, there's going to be correlation between them. That's
cool. And it just happens that was the correlation.
Yeah.
Male Pokemon are stronger offensively, female Pokemon are stronger defensively.
Yeah.
That was just how the correlation worked.
Whoa.
And also determined whether a Pokemon... Wow. Yeah, he's in Blaze, actually.
Oh, of course, yeah. Okay.
Of course, his leftovers are kind of ruining that for him, because Cheren's such a great trainer.
Yeah, he needs to stay in Blaze. That would be ideal.
Yeah, he'd be doing lots of damage right now, but apparently Cheren doesn't like winning. Because he's dumb.
Oh, he's going to use Flamethrower on a fire type. Actually, it worked fairly well.
I mean, to be fair, it probably... Well, actually, no, it isn't even. It probably wouldn't even be his best move. What is with this guy? Well, he's back in Blaze now, I guess. Fleblitz probably would have killed that.
Yeah, I think he was still in Blaze before, but even so.
He might have been, I don't know.
Right.
There goes Cheren, who's literally just thrown his... thrown whatever chance of victory he had completely out the window.
Yep. Yeah,
I think you were faster than him, so you probably would have KO'd him anyway before he could do a tremendous amount of damage, but still. Once again, Cheren wanting to be the best in the world and just doing a rather terrible job at it.
Yeah, not necessarily knowing how, shall we say.
Yeah. All I'll say is if this was Bianca, you'd be dead.
That's true. There you go. Bianca is genuinely the better trainer.
She's way better than him.
Yeah. That's kind of
doesn't even care.
That's kind of the funny thing. She's supposed to be the one that's not quite as good, and so learns to accept that and all that. But no, she's actually better.
Player who just wants to have fun.
Yeah.
And he's the ultra competitive guy who has to win, and yet she is so much better than him. It's unreal.
To be fair, about right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind that at all, because Bianca's a much more likable character than Sharon is.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm more than happy for her to be better than him in every way. But still.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the IVs thing, I think the only alternative to scrapping them completely is genuinely making it really, really easy to max them out. So things like...
There's got to be some way of removing the issue that they have, which is basically making people not want to play competitive Pokemon because of how long it takes to actually deal with these things.
Yeah.
And again, I can completely understand why people don't want to play it, because it is a ball ache to deal with.
It is. And I think, if nothing else, the biggest problem you face is that no one knows how to play competitive without spending hours online.
Yeah, that's another problem, is the fact that you need to actually look online in order to be aware of any of these things or what they are. I mean, granted, the games have gotten better since back in the day of kind of telling you what these things do and what they mean.
Yeah.
But they kind of just need to outright tell you at this point.
They do. I think if anything, if they say make the bottle caps more prevalent, and I would say drop the level you need to use them.
Because that was horrible.
I mean, it just makes them completely unusable. No one actually puts their Pokemon all the way up to 100. Like, no one...
There's no point.
No. There's no value in doing it. So if you
what made it worse was in Sun and Moon, trying to do that was so long and boring that you may as well not even bother.
Yeah.
It would be quicker to just breed something and get the IVs that way.
Blimey. That was useless.
From a competitive standpoint, Sun and Moon were horrible.
They were.
They were absolutely terrible in every way. Like,
I mean, they were horrible just straight off, just because they removed super training. Like,
yeah,
if nothing else.
Idea. Like, all the people that, I mean, I've heard people say, oh yeah, but the island, you don't actually have to do anything. Yeah, that takes 9 hours.
Yeah.
To boost one stat.
Yep.
You have to sit there and do nothing for 9 hours.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, swing and a miss, chaps. Swing and a miss there.
Yeah. With super training, yeah, you have to do something. You have to play an easy minigame for like half an hour, and you get the stats up.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you possibly think sitting there for 9 hours is better? Get out. You're just being lazy.
Yeah.
It's like, and what makes it even worse is you're basically saying, I don't want to play the game. I would rather not play the game for 9 hours. That's literally what you're saying. You're saying I would rather do something else for 9 hours than actually play this game for half an hour.
Yeah.
So you're basically just admitting you hate the game. You have to just say, I don't like this game.
You're right. Honestly, you're absolutely right. And it's so weird because they spend so much time in Gen 6 trying to make the competitive better. Yeah. Not necessarily successfully every time, but...
No, I mean, the point is they tried. I mean, the Fence Safari kind of worked. I was kind of a fan of that.
Yeah, I like the Fence Safari.
That was a good thing.
I like super training. I just like the whole... the changes to Destiny or not and everything else. It all made sense.
Yeah, change Destiny or not, and also the... I'm granted this was a bug that they then removed because they're stupid, but the whole thing where, the uncategorized egg group Pokemon all had 3 perfect IVs.
Yeah.
It wasn't intended to affect baby Pokemon, but in X and Y it did.
Yes.
So, stuff like Riolu and Pichu would always come with like 3 perfect IVs, which made it much, much quicker to get all the IVs that you wanted onto certain things. You could just catch a bunch of baby Pokemon, evolve them, and then you've got a bunch of breeding fodder that you can then pass these IVs onto.
Yeah.
Super quick and easy. Like, making a competitive team in Gen 6 was easy as hell. You barely even had to do anything. And then in Sun and Moon, they pretty much went backwards on all of it.
Yeah, pretty much all of it. The only thing that didn't change was Destiny Knot, which...
Yeah.
They'd have had to put actual work in to change, so...
Yeah, so this not stayed the same. The SOS battles were absolute garbage.
Yeah.
That took ages, and it was long and boring. The island training was just, again, you sit there for 9 hours and wait. Great.
Yeah.
What do you do? Now what do I do with my life? You literally can't do anything because you just have to sit there and wait. It's horrible. Absolutely terrible. And again, that's the reason why casual players don't want to touch the competitive side, because they have to sit through all of that.
Yeah. There's no indication in the game as to what you need to do to get your Pokemon competitively ready.
There is not any at all.
I would argue that anything that's like the bare minimum right now. So things like max IVs, max EVs, and yeah, there is some strategy to that. So you know, there is a little bit of leeway there, and all the rest of it. That shouldn't be a thing, or the game should make it very, very easy to kind of meet those requirements.
Yeah,
like
it should tell you, but it should basically tell you what you need to do.
Yeah, to be honest, like I know this might not, this would kind of kill a few strategies, to be fair, but what I would potentially do if you just wanted a really, really quick and easy win is just do, you know how the levels are scaled already?
Yeah.
Well, just scale all IVs up to 31. Just immediately do that as soon as you go into battle. And you know, yeah, again, it's the cheap and stupid way, and it does obviously mean that you lose, say, the benefits having 0 IVs can have for Trick Room, for example.
Yeah, I mean, although to be fair, like, I think that doing away with the whole IV thing would be kind of more beneficial than losing certain aspects of strategy that you get from certain IVs,
I agree, because the strategy is so minimal anyway, and it's just it's just another thing you do if you're planning to use Trick Room.
Optimization. It's just a simple optimization that you can add on, which isn't necessary, but it does help potentially. You know, it's just one of them things that, you know, a little addition that you can do. Which I don't think anybody would miss if you just scrapped the whole thing entirely and allowed it so that people would be like, yeah, I can do what I want now. Yeah,
it was always a micro optimization anyway, really. It was one of those tiny little things. So you wouldn't lose anything by dropping it.
Not really, no.
Yeah, and while it's one of those things where what I suggest is really cheap and really dirty. You know, it's not a solution to the problem. But it would fix it it would fix competitive well enough where you don't have to worry about IVs anymore.
Yeah.
Which makes a huge difference to how accessible the games are, because it suddenly means that as long as you've got a good nature and you know how to EV train your Pokemon, two things that the Pokemon games have already been able to show you how to change, you've got a competitive ready Pokemon already.
I mean, there is some irony to it in such a way where you think, like, say games like, Overwatch or League of Legends or, like, any fighting game.
Yeah.
You know, especially fighting games, which are widely considered to be inaccessible competitively to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is understandable to some degree and is kind of accepted, but Pokemon's, like, a game for kids and people of all ages. Why are you gating off the competitive side of it so much? To the point that it's almost on par with, like, Street Fighter or something.
Yeah, and the thing with Street Fighter, of course, is if you want to go on, pick a character and jump online, you're not being limited by anything except your own ability.
No, you're not. You can just jump straight in. You know, you don't have to be good at the game, but, you know, immediately, if you want to learn how to play, if you want to practice against other players, then you can. You can just, you know, just pick Ryu, jump in, and start battling against people. You know, there's nothing stopping you from doing that.
I mean, put it this way, if you took... what's his name? Chap who just won Evo on Fighters. Him. His name.
Sonic Fox, I think he's called.
Sonic Fox, that's the one. And you sat him down with a copy of, say, Street Fighter V or Dragon Ball Fighters or whatever, and then you took Ray Rizzle, sat him down with a fresh... Both of these are fresh copies. A fresh copy of Pokemon, say, Sun.
Yeah.
Sonic Fox can get going straight away. Yeah. I don't think there's even anything you'd have to do. Maybe just his controls.
Really, no, he just gets in, jumps in a lobby, picks his characters, and goes nuts.
Yeah. Whereas Ray Rizzle has 25 hours of slog to go through. And okay, that's not wholly fair because Pokemon is not the same kind of game. It's not an exclusively competitive game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there is some question in my mind as to why that is the case. You know, why isn't there a
to use for that would be, say, something like Destiny.
Yeah.
Where the PvP is the weapons that you take into it do make a difference.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of those weapons you can't get them through just regular means. It does take some time to get some of them. But at the same time, there's nothing stopping you from jumping in there straight away and still potentially winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, your weapons are not going to be as good, but they're still usable. You know, you still could potentially win.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to adapt your strategy to the fact that your opponents are probably going to have better guns than you.
Yeah. Sorry.
But as you say, with Pokemon, you don't have that option. You know, if you try doing that with Pokemon, you're going to get your face kicked in.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and this is one of those like super wild ideas that won't ever work, but considering that the vast majority of the Pokemon competitive community just, the first thing they do is jump into Showdown.
Yeah.
They only use the actual games when they want to, compete in official tournaments. So it almost makes me wonder, would it not make sense, not for Game Freak, but for the rest of us, just to have basically a simulator mode, accessible from the title screen at any time, where you do just pick your team,
I think it would, to be honest with you. I think that, I don't know exactly how much memory space it would require to implement something like this.
Virtually nothing.
No, I'm not a programmer, so, it's...
It wouldn't really, because all you'd need to do is program the interface for choosing your team,
Yeah,
and storing it somewhere outside the main game save.
Well, that's well, you've already got the battle box, potentially, for that.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to use that, because that is for in-games. It's for quote-unquote real.
True, but there is ways of locking the battle box, so anything that's in there can't be actually taken out.
That's true.
So you could have, like, a separate lobby battle box, potentially, that is completely locked from the in-game PC. So you can't actually take anything out of it that's in there. But from the in-game, you can still look at it.
Yeah. I love the badge check gates in this game.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome gate, to be fair. I've got to say, like, the visuals in this game are fantastic.
They really are. It's yet another sort of indicator that good sprites can be better than mediocre, models in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I would actually agree that this game, I think, looks better than Gen 6.
Yeah, I think it does.
Overall. Yeah, Gen 6 has got better... better. The graphics are technically, yes, they're better, but they don't look better, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I don't think they'd ever do like a sim mode, because I think it's too important to them that they have their, you train them, you battle with them.
I think one thing that they've always been fairly consistent about is the fact that they're your Pokemon that you raised,
Yeah. But I feel like it depends how much they really do care about the competitive side of things, and of course the answer is not enough to do this.
Yeah, no, they don't. They're not. I can't see them ever doing anything like this, anything like that. They should.
They should.
Don't get me wrong. I really think that they should. Because I feel like, because at the end of the day, there is, and there always is going to be. There's always going to be a disconnect between the casual group and the competitive group.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that disconnect shouldn't be so wide that the casual group doesn't feel that they can't just cross the bridge.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I think that there is a lot of things in the competitive side that the casual players might like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of cases where I've seen, the more casual players when they watch VGC especially, and they're like, everybody's using the same team. Why don't you use something else? Wouldn't that be more interesting? And I would say to them, like, maybe you should try.
Yeah.
But again, the issue is they can't try because the IVs gate them out.
Yeah.
If you had something like the simulator in there, then maybe they'd be more willing to give it a go and say, yeah, let's try something. Let's throw something against the wall and see what sticks. That's kind of how I did a lot of the stuff that I did in Gen 6, is literally just by coming up with an idea, sticking it together, and then just seeing if it worked. And luckily for me, a lot of the times it did. But, in Gen 6, people... especially when and even in Gen 5, when people watched the stuff that I used, and they were pretty much, wow, that's pretty awesome that you're using all these things that, nobody else uses. And it's like, well, it just goes to show that there is a way to do it. You just need to give it a go.
I agree, honestly, and I think, they need to do that. Like, I think from the point of view of, making the competitive better, they do. But even from a casual perspective, as you say, it makes it impossible for someone to, play with their friends.
Yeah.
If their friends know how to play competitively. If you fight, if I say, oh, let's have a quick battle, and I'm not particularly competitively inclined. I do have a team, but if, let's say I didn't, I fight you, and then you've got your fully trained team, and you curb stomp me, and okay, you'd curb stomp me anyway, but you're automatically going to do it just by sheer virtue of being, you know, having that preparation done.
Yeah, I mean, a thing of it as well is I think one thing that, and I do understand that this is a bit of another kind of another gate, really, as far as obviously using whatever you want is concerned. Wow, is that another extremely health and safety violating thing?
It is indeed, yes. And so's this.
I mean, to be fair, like, that might give you a few bruises. If Skylar's thing decides to stop working, you die.
Yeah.
Which, you know, kind of leans into the whole aspect of her trying to kill you anyway.
It's all part of the fun.
Anyway, as I was saying, I mean, I can understand, like, to be honest with you, like, making some of the more weird stuff that I use work isn't easy to figure out.
Yeah, but nor should it be.
It does, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be, you're right. It does require a fair bit of experience to understand what you need to be doing and why. But the point is like, you know, it's, again, it's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But, and I think that if the competitive side of it was more accessible, you'd be seeing a lot more of the casual players doing stuff like that, experimenting with stuff, you know, seeing what works, you know, trying out their favorites and seeing if they can make them work. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the times, if they did, eventually they would be able to, you know.
I think so, honestly.
I mean, I mean, that was kind of what I wanted to sort of show throughout Gen 6. I mean, I never really took Gen 6 competitive that seriously because, you know, I was doing other things in my life at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really have the time to invest into it. I didn't really have the interest in it either, to be honest with you. I think like after like VGC 12, like my interest in the game kind of diminished, just for the fact that my interest sort of moved on, really.
Yeah.
And then in Gen 6, it kind of, you know, other things in my life started to change. You know, I had other responsibilities, and that kind of took over from, you know, playing the game. You know, so I kind of didn't take Gen 6 as it kind of gave me an opportunity to sort of just mess around with it and just do silly things and stuff like that. But one thing I was able to demonstrate to people who watched it was the fact that, yeah, if applied correctly, that stuff can still work.
Yeah.
So if that did inspire people to try new things who saw any of that, then great. You know, and I think it did. To some degree. I mean, as I say, I don't know exactly, because I feel like, especially with the community that we have, where people just use whatever they want anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to be inclined to do that regardless of what I do or what I use. But I think doing that kind of enforced, you know, the idea that, yeah, you can do that and it can still work.
Yeah. I think there should be a goal for the game in general, really. Like,
yeah.
On top of the whole it needs to be far, far, far more accessible thing, which it obviously really, really, really does, it also needs to be more malleable in terms of being able to try things and having them have a chance of working. Because at the moment, you really do have the correct way to do things and the incorrect way, and everything else is just how well you can predict.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think that the balance of the game, especially from Gen 6 onwards, has been really, really bad.
Yeah, I agree.
There's not really any better way. There's no nice way of saying it. It's rubbish. You know, you've got people in. You saw it in VGC. You saw it in the last two VGCs that took place for Generation 6, where literally all the teams were pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You know, in the VGC that was the Ubers one, which I can't remember which one it was.
It was 15?
I think it was 16 was the Ubers.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, because 13 was the last one for Gen 5. 14 was Kalos only. 15 was National Dex. 16 was Ubers. 15, you had the top 8 literally using the exact same team.
Yeah.
All of them. Every single one. No variant. There's almost very little variance whatsoever. And any variance that was there, you couldn't see because it was like EVs and IVs and natures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's invisible variance. You can't see the difference that it makes, really, unless you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't. That's not an insult. That's just how it is at the end of the day.
No, it's true. The spectators aren't going to be able to identify EV and IV differences.
Yeah.
And nor should they.
I mean, like, because I know from when I used to play the game, like, when people, you can tell, like, after a certain point, you can kind of tell how much damage a move is going to do before the health bar starts to decrease.
Yeah, which is good.
You just know, because you've calculated it, and you've kind of calculated it off of other things as well, so you know how much damage it's going to do before you see it. And as I say, though, if you're not experiencing the game, which a lot of the spectators aren't, you know, and again, that's not anything against them. At the end of the day, it is what it is. A lot of the people, you know, the high-end competitive people, at least, or at least the ones that have been doing it for long enough that they can see stuff like that, are in the minority. That's always how it's going to be in any community at the end.
Yeah, I think it's a problem across basically every single competitive game out there, is how do you have the depth of mechanics required for it to be a good competitive game, but I mean, accessible enough where you can show it to an audience and they know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, because I think another thing, it's not in any way, it's kind of related to it, but it's something completely different, but still kind of suffers from the same issue. Oh, there's a nice item. Is BattleBots. Because that same thing has come up in BattleBots with Tombstone recently, where people say that Tombstone is boring because it never loses. And they say that its design is boring because it's literally just a box with a giant blade on the front. You kind of have to have some knowledge of robot combat and engineering to actually appreciate how well optimized and designed Tombstone actually is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at BattleBots as, well, the blood sport that it is, then Tombstone is perfectly designed for it. I think
pretty much,
perhaps one thing they could do is actually spend more time explaining why Tombstone is the way it is and why it works in terms of the commentary.
And they don't. That's the thing, though. I don't think the commentators actually know why Tombstone is so optimized.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that you would have to. I think Ray Billings are probably the best person to ask.
Yeah.
But they don't ask him. You know.
No, and I'm not sure he'd want to go into too much detail while he's still competing.
No, not really. I mean, I know he's done talks because I've seen a video where he's sort of like done he's gone to like a university lecture for engineering.
Okay,
and he's
that's pretty cool.
His time on BattleBots, and he's explained stuff like that. He didn't actually go into any detail about why he did what he did with Tombstone, but he did mention suggestions that people had for Tombstone. One of which the first thing he mentioned actually was wheel guards.
Yeah.
Covering up the tyres so that they're protected from damage. Because obviously that's one thing that people pick on with Tombstone, is the fact that the wheels are exposed.
Yeah.
He didn't explain why he did it that way. He just said he liked the fact that people approached him with suggestions like that, because that's how you kind of progress things, by asking, what if you did this? What if you tried this? What if you added this to it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you take a closer look at Tombstone and you kind of realise how robot combat works at that point, you can understand why the wheels don't have protection over them. For one thing, it wouldn't make a difference because you could easily just jam the wheels up with whatever's guarding them.
Yes, which happens a lot.
Into it. And secondly, they're not really much of a weakness anyway, because of the fact that the blade is wider than the wheel axle.
Yes.
So if you try and get round Tombstone and hit the wheels, he's just going to turn his blade straight into you and rip your face off, basically.
Yeah.
And it's actually reached the point where you can tell that he sometimes uses the wheels as bait.
He does, yes.
He tries to lure you in with the wheels and then just swing the blade straight into your face.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about Tombstone, is it can turn so quickly.
Yeah, and the blade's got such a range on it that it's always going to be the first thing that you hit.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to turn that much for you to end up in its blade anyway.
It barely has to turn. In fact, it turns like it just edges itself over slightly, and you're just eating a face full of blade.
Yeah.
You know, but going back to the point about Pokemon is the fact that, you know, it takes a certain eye to appreciate something like that.
Yeah.
With Pokemon, it takes a certain eye to appreciate a certain, you know, the design of a certain team.
Yeah.
But a casual player's not going to see that. They're just going to see everybody using the exact same team. Oh, this is boring.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they aren't wrong. It kind of is boring.
I think what's ended up happening is because the metagame is so what's the opposite of diverse? So restricted. The only changes the players can make is in these micro optimizations.
Yeah.
Which
I mean
should be very much not the goal.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it in the earlier VGCs where it ended up being very much a game of rock, paper, scissors, except there's numerous options and everybody's got their own.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it, I think the most notably was in VGC 14, where in the initial VGC, in the Nationals and stuff like that, Mega Kangaskhan was everywhere. This was before Oras came out, so Mega Salamence and the like, they didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
But Mega Kangaskhan was everywhere. Fast forward to Worlds, Mega Kangaskhan is nowhere. Because literally everybody knows how to beat it at that point.
Yes.
And you're seeing stuff like World Champion Pachirisu and Mega Charizard is now Mega Charizard Y with all manner of weird builds on it to deal with certain things. And Heatran's there. Was it? No, it wasn't Heatran that was there. It was Heatran was the year before. You know, and all sorts of other things. And that kind of gave you sort of... That was more interesting to see, just for the fact that you got to see a wider variety of strategies that you could use.
Yeah. That's really all we're looking for, to be honest. It's just... There are, 800 and something Pokemon.
Yeah.
I say something because we don't know exactly how many with Let's Go.
Yeah, it's a big number.
It'll be 808, I think, now, because there's one more.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I would hope that at least 50 of them are viable choices. Preferably, like, more like 100, really.
In VGC?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I know.
Yeah, you would hope that. The reality is the amount of viable choices in VGC, especially in VGC 15. I don't know what the state of it is now. I haven't bothered to check, and I don't care.
Not better. It's no better.
Yeah, in VGC 15 at least, you could count the number of viable choices on your hands.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You had enough fingers to count them.
I would say, yeah, there were no more than a dozen choices. I'd say about 8 to 10 are probably.
I would say barely 8.
Yeah.
I would not even say 10.
I'd have to go counting, but yeah, I believe that, honestly. And
yeah.
it's a shame because even if there were, say, 20 choices or 30 choices, suddenly you've got, you know, over double the number of choices, and you've suddenly got a game that's actually interesting to watch. Yeah. You know, like...
I mean, I don't... I mean, again, I'm not going to... I can't fault the people who play the games. At the end of the day, they're going there to win, so fair play is what you need to do to win. I don't fault them for that. The issue is obviously, you know, the blame goes to Game Freak at the end of the day for making the game in such a state where that comes the way that you win. Where,
yeah, I would...
there's one option.
I would level some blame at the players if they were just being over conservative, but they're not. They're really...
They're not. That's, you know, they're using the best option. That is objectively the best option. That's just how it is.
Use these choices or lose. It's basically those are your choices.
I mean, one thing I will say to it is the team that I mean, I know the team had a nickname. I think it was called Chalk. It was the nickname for it. I think it was Cresselia, Heatran. I can't remember what the A stood for. L was Landorus and K was Kangaskhan.
Yeah.
The A, I can't remember what the A was now.
Talonflame, maybe?
It might have been Talonflame, I'm not sure. I can't remember. Yeah. There was an A, but the team was called Chalk, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
And Chalk was pretty much the only thing that you saw at the end of VGC 15.
Yeah.
Loads of other people tried to use Chalk. If you went online, you'd see Chalk all the time.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't mind so much about Chalk is the fact that it still required decent player input in order for it to work.
Yeah.
You couldn't just use Chalk online and expect it to automatically win the game for you. It just wasn't that. It wouldn't. If you didn't know how to use it, you would still lose.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
I saw a lot of people using it online, and I pretty much just smashed all of them because they just didn't know how to use it. You know, I could use whatever I wanted against them, I'd still win because it's like you're using it, but you don't know what you're doing, and so the team can't help you there.
Yeah.
It's the intricacies of the team that allow it to kind of be as optimized as it is for what it does. And at the end of the day, if you're not of a level high enough to know how to do that, then you know the optimization pretty much goes out the window because you're not optimized. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's where it should be. I mean, a game like Pokemon needs to be reliant on the skill of its player. Yeah. If it wants to be a competitive, you know, game, particularly a competitive game where you play for money, which is what it is now, you can't have that sort of.
Yeah, you know. And to be fair, they've been very good about that. I don't think that's ever been an issue where a team's just literally been so overpowered that it doesn't matter the skill of the player; they're just going to win anyway.
I agree. Yeah.
Really had that issue, except maybe in like 6v6 singles, but the game's never been balanced around that anyway, so it's a pointless thing to say. Unless you're spot on, but you know. That's...
Well, they have their own meta game, don't they? And that's
they do, and I'll be honest, I give them crap, but at the end of the day, I don't envy their job.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't want it.
No, dealing with that is a mess.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't really say they do the best that they can because of the way the voting works. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of personal bias that goes into it. So
I think so. I think there's a lot of people don't like something, or people think it threatens their personal team, and therefore they'll vote against it.
Vote to get rid of it,
which is a shame.
It is, but at the end of the day, what can you do? I mean, obviously, you know, they want to include their community in the things they do, which is admirable, if a bit misguided.
I think it's the smart thing to do, insofar as I think if you just have like a high council that run everything, it might be.
That's what Smashboards does.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's mechanically better, but I almost wonder if it's. I think people will get put off.
I mean, I don't think it's really affected the Smash community that much.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that they've. I mean, I suppose because of the fact that it's always been the way, they've kind of just accepted that that's just how it is.
Well, basically, Smash has unfortunately been reduced to the same sort of thing as Melee, which is Bayonetta, and Bayonetta.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is a shame, but then I think that's what Ultimate's going to fix. So
that being, I would like to just give props to the guy who he kind of turned himself into a pariah by doing this, but thanks for taking the hit. I'm sure you may have already seen this video. I've seen it before. It's horrendous. The Bayonetta versus Ridley match.
All right. Oh yeah, I have seen it. Yeah.
Where he just absolutely destroys Ridley with Bayonetta by like comboing him like 0 to death. He did that in front of Sakurai.
I know Sakurai.
They're watching him do that, and apparently people in attendance said that when the match was over, Sakurai was shaking his head.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I know he did say something about rebalancing the game afterwards as well.
Yeah. He did say there were going to have to be some changes. He didn't specify exactly what, but I think we know exactly what he intended.
Yeah, he also he said he noticed 3 bugs in the game? It's like, really?
Maybe?
Yeah, he did say that, and it's like, really?
Well, to be fair, I mean, he knows what he made and how it was intended to work. So.
Well, that's it, yeah. But I mean, it looks really, really stable as is now. So I think he did a really good job.
He has, but it is interesting that this person did that in front of him to show him, look at this.
Yeah.
And then he responded to it, and fair play to him, he responded to it how you would. He'd be like, oh crap, we've got a problem here, we need to fix this.
I mean, yeah, I think it was the right thing to do in terms of bringing it to his attention, for sure.
Yeah, imagine if you did that to, I mean, I don't know how much attention Game Freak pays to VGC.
I think they do, because I mean, they do turn up at Worlds to announce things.
Yeah. How would they look at Chalk?
Well, apparently with loving embrace, because they keep it worth it, because it's still going a generation later.
Granted, the Chalk team isn't there anymore, but the same sort of thing is still going on.
Yeah, they've swapped out the genies for I think something else, whatever it was. But
Tapus, basically.
Yeah, for Tapus and Ultra Beasts, basically. And
pretty much, yeah.
There's not a huge amount of difference other than that. It sort of feels like the metagame is the same. It's just a few slots have been swapped out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame, really.
I mean, it's and again, I feel like that kind of gates off the casual players from it as well. He's seeing that and just thinking, my God, this looks terrible.
Yeah, I feel like you've kind of... Oops. You don't necessarily want a situation where your entire team is dependent on your Pokemon choice. In other words, there's no strategy involved. It's just, you know, you pick this, you win.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I think...
As I say, it's never reached that. It hasn't reached that point yet.
No,
So,
I don't think it will, just because of the kind of game Pokemon is.
yeah. But at the same time, it is a bit of a problem when, you know, you go into the top 8 of Worlds and literally all 8 teams are identical.
Yeah, I really wish that there was a way to make... Basically, I would like to see... Like, this is a very much ideal world. But I would like to see sort of 80% of fully evolved Pokemon should be competitively viable in some way. Maybe not necessarily, you know, chalk-like levels of viable. But you should be able to form a team with enough different options.
Yeah.
Where you can basically, you know, where you can effectively pick your favourites.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, I still stand by the fact that you still can. You know, given that you know, because at the end of the day, player input still is more important than... I'm looking up chalk now. I want to know what that A is. What is the A?
My vote was Talonflame.
Among Us. God damn
Oh,
it.
Among Us, of course.
Jesus Christ, how did I forget Among Us? I used Among Us.
Yep, that makes sense.
I mean, to be fair, I've used Cresselia and Heatran as well.
Yeah. I feel like with the kind of the team selection options, you know, Pachirisu showing up in Sagen's Park's team in 2014 was incredible, not just because it was a mouse, you know, widely considered useless, you know, widely regarded as useless Pokemon. It was the fact that it wasn't chalk. You know, it wasn't the same set.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think one thing that I mean, I mean, for the casual players, I will try and explain that.
Yeah.
Because I do feel it is important when making a team and being, especially when you're taking inspiration from something like that, and you should definitely take inspiration from something like that because it is very good. He didn't do that because he wanted to be creative or different.
No.
That is another form of optimization. He looked at what was being used and what was popular at the time and realised, wait a minute, for this combination, Pachirisu is actually my best option.
Yeah.
Yes, it was funny, and I'm pretty sure that with some intent, there was some humorous intent behind it. But at the same time, that was still the best option.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I can't remember exactly what was being used at VGC 14, to be honest with you, but I do remember talking to someone from Pokemon World, one of the good people from Pokemon World, of which there were many. There was only like one person who wasn't particularly likable, who unfortunately happened to be the webmaster.
Yeah.
Great times, but and we were talking about what's it? Because he hadn't actually watched. I mean, he was big on competitive, but he hadn't actually seen what had happened in VGC with Sajan Park. He just knew the Pachirisu had won it.
Yeah.
And then when I kind of explained, like, you know, well, this is what people were using, and then he kind of did this, and it kind of did that, and he was like, okay, that's actually really clever, you know, and that's when he kind of realised Pachirisu actually had a purpose on the team.
Well, that's what you want to see, ideally.
And that's kind of what you want to be aiming for, really, when you're trying to use these weird and wonderful things, giving them a purpose, because that's a lot more impressive than just using it for the sake of using it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like when people, because one thing that people commented on with my most recent VGC team was Raichu was on the team. And people are like, I really like that you're using Raichu, that's something different. And at a glance, you'd think that I'm using Raichu just because I like Raichu. And to be honest, I didn't really care for Raichu much at all at that point when I first started using it. It was just, wait a minute, this is the best option for my... Because on the original iteration of that team, I had 2 Pokemon that were weak to electric. And most of the team was reliant on being hitting hard and fast, specifically fast. So Raichu having Lightning Rod was like, okay, I'll get to protect the 2 that are weak to electric and protection from Thunder Wave. Yeah. And I needed something with Fake Out. Raichu gets Fake Out. So I was like, okay. And also, you know, we've got Encore. That's good in doubles. If somebody uses Protect, you can lock them into it. Nuzzle, we can paralyze people. That helps. You know, I'm going to be faster than them now because they're paralyzed, etc. There we go. So let's put it in. In the end, even though it was intended to literally just be a lightning rod with fake out and a bunch of extra moves attached to it, Raichu's use ended up evolving far beyond its initial purpose, beyond what I'd intended or expected, to the point where it literally became a paralysis Encore bot that just caused a huge amount of disruption outside of Lightning Rod.
Yeah.
And then from pretty much there on, it became a fixture of every single team that I used after that, just because of how much use it provided. But again, that wasn't because I liked Raichu as a Pokemon or because it was one of my favorites. I used it because it was the best option to use in that scenario.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people didn't quite get until I actually explained it to them. Once I explained it to them, they pretty much understood straight away as to why I was doing it. But at a glance, they didn't understand why I was using Raichu in that slot. They just thought, oh, I must like Raichu.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know. And that's the kind of thing that you want to be looking at if you want to start using these interesting options, is optimizing them, understanding, you know, what is the best thing to use in this scenario? You know, what can we do here? You know, and how to make it work. Like with Team Stupid. One of the Pokemon that was on Team Stupid was Lantern.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can we make Lantern work? 'Cause this is 6v6 singles. We've got to try and make Lantern work. So I paired it off with so then I found out, wait a minute, with Skarmory it pairs off perfectly because their types align. They cover each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Done. Lantern's in the team. He works now. Again, he now serves a purpose. Is complementing Skarmory.
That's good.
You know, and stuff like that. So that's I think if casual players see stuff like that, then they kind of start to think, okay, maybe I can make stuff work with my favourites now, you know, and that can kind of help to inspire. But with the game in the state is, I think I've kind of gone a bit off track with that, to be honest with you. But the issue is, obviously, with the state of the game that it is in now, you don't really see much opportunity for that.
Yeah.
It looks like when you're watching VGC, you have to use the same old shit or you lose. It doesn't give you any reason to believe otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is, again, going to put people off. You know, again, we already mentioned that the fact that the whole thing feels gated off to casual players.
Yeah.
Well, now you're at a stage where, even if it wasn't, are they even going to want to join in anymore?
I don't know. I think that's something that's got to be addressed as well. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of tricky because I think you don't want a situation where you remove all the skill from it or you remove all the strategy from it. You know,
no,
you've still got to be good at the game to be successful at competitive. Obviously, that's
still the case.
Yeah.
You know, luckily.
But I think you need to be able to lower the barrier of entry to casuals, lower the kind of lower how annoying it is to get into it for competitive players, and that was going to be harder because that involves basically detaching it from the main story. I do quite like what oddly enough Final Fantasy XIV does, where it has a PvP mode. Yeah. And as soon as you can get to the island it's on, you can play it, like fully equipped and everything.
Yeah.
I think, anyway. I'm not sure, I've only been there once. But it would make, I think it wouldn't be too bad where if they added some sort of battle simulator mode, if they said, okay, well, you've got to have at least 2 badges to use it, you know. You find
that's one thing, going back to Destiny, one thing that they always did is, even though your characters level up, and they do kind of have stats, in terms of effectiveness of how much damage you do to people of other levels, in PvP, the level advantages are disabled.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you can just jump in straight away and still, you know, hold your own and be able to play against other people as early as like level 1, pretty much. Yeah, you won't have as many moves available to you, so you probably shouldn't jump in straight away. But the amount of time it takes to grind up to the point where you've got your moves is like, what, an hour, basically, after you've just started the game.
Yeah.
Pretty much, you know. With Pokemon, it's like you need to beat the game, and then you've got to take 25 hours to make your team.
Yeah.
And then you can start playing. And stuff like that. And it's just like, well, who's gonna want to do? Again, that's going back to the whole gatekeeper thing. It's like back in the day when people were using more diverse teams, I imagine a lot of casual players probably would want to join in.
Absolutely,
when
yeah.
they see what people are using, but they feel like they can't because of the amount of time it takes to make a team.
Yeah.
And then got to start battling and practicing against other people. And again, that's more time that you've got to spend doing.
Yeah.
After you've already spent hours on hours just making the team, and then realizing, oh wait, if the team doesn't work, I'm going to have to change it. That's even more hours I'm going to have to put into reading something new. Or making a new team from scratch. Even more hours you've then got to pour into not actually playing the game, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had a random idea, which I think could help. Which is, take our battle simulator idea.
Yeah.
But rather than having the ability to freely pick Pokemon, basically restrict it to the battle box. So you take the Pokemon you want, so you catch a couple of legendaries or whatever, you catch the Pokemon you want, you drop them in the battle box, and then you go into the online mode, and it allows you to customize the ability, moves, held item, and anything else of that Pokemon. So you still are using your Pokemon, but you don't have to grind, basically, to get, say, spend hours and hours looking for the Earthquake TM or whatever. Yeah,
because I was thinking, one thing I was thinking, because that kind of made me think, as you were saying, I was thinking, make it so that you have access to whatever you have in your Pokedex.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense as well.
So that as long as it's in the Pokedex and you've seen it and you've got its data, you then have access to it in the simulator, rather than having to actually own the thing.
Yeah.
Because then you could have some sort of diversity with trading Pokemon from other people to get their data in the decks.
That's true, yeah.
You've got a bit more accessibility there, so you don't necessarily have to have it. You just have to have its data there. And then the Pokedex, you could say, oh, you can link the Pokedex to the simulator, and then maybe in-game you could have like some sort of in-game explanation for it. Where like the professor says, oh yeah, we've got the Pokedex, but we've also got this battle simulator. And with the Pokedex's data, you can then put it in and then have access to it, which I think would actually also give the Pokedex more of a purpose than it has. Because I think at the moment it's kind of just there because it always has been.
I think that's really good, honestly. I really like that idea. I think you've got to try and reconcile the idea that you got to battle with the Pokemon that you have some degree of connection with. So either you own them or you've seen them, basically. Yeah. But you've also want to have that freedom to kind of chop and change.
I would say for the decks, I think it'd be better if you had the catch data for them before it let you use them.
I'd be happy with that, honestly.
So I think that kind of gives a bit more sort of, it gives a bit more of a pursuit towards it, but at the same time, you still have a fairly easy out if you want to. You could just trade with someone who's got the stuff.
Yeah, but it still makes you work for it, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, from Game Freak's point of view, they're going to want you to work for it. Of course,
yeah, and the whole thing with Pokemon has been about catching things, so I think doing something like that will give people more of an incentive to actually catch things.
I agree. I think that would make perfect sense. I think there's also the kind of, when I was playing through Sun and Moon, I didn't really want to catch any legendaries straight away, because obviously I wanted to go back and soft reset them for their IVs.
Understandable.
Which I think I only ended up doing for for Tapu Koko in the end, but I can't remember. I might have done it for all of them. It was a while ago. Whereas, which feels to me like it's it goes against the spirit of Pokemon, which is you catch the things, you catch the giant monsters, and then you get to use them, and that's great. Whereas if I'm sitting there going, oh well, I've got to care, lose the first battle deliberately, or knock it out or whatever, so I can't catch it the first time because I need to return it to where it's supposed to go, and then got to sit in front of it with a load of quick balls and dust balls and everything, and keep catching it and keep resetting until I get the exact numbers that I want. That's boring. It's really, really boring, and I would say
it's completely luck-based as well, which kind of makes it a lot worse.
Yeah,
is the fact that there isn't really any player input into actually doing these things, where you actually need to perform a task in order to progress what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because you're pretty much just relying on the game to eventually let you win, basically.
Yeah.
There's not anything that you can do to like really. I mean, yeah, you can obviously. There's the stuff that you can do to like with the with synchronize to make sure you get the correct nature. But at the end of the day, that's like that's just making the task take a lot less time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still taking forever, and you're still completely at the game's mercy, effectively, as to when you actually succeed, which I don't think should ever really be the case, to be honest with you. And it's something that I've noticed in other games where it's like where you're investing time into progressing to a certain point. One thing I've always felt is that all the time that you do spend, you should get something out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
One issue that this cropped up in Destiny quite a bit, where even most recently with the Solstice event with the armor grinding, where you had to perform certain tasks in order to upgrade the armor. And for the PvE side of it, it was you had to do 3 heroic strikes. Fairly simple. You just get to the end, beat the boss, done. Do that 3 times, done. For the Nightfall, you just had to complete 1 Nightfall, done. The time that you put into that is going to be like, okay, you put in this amount of time, you get this out of it, donezo, sweet. And another requirement would be like, you need to get 100 kills with a void weapon or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is simple. For the PvP side of it, you had to win 5 games.
That seems a bit, yeah.
That takes significantly longer than any of the other tasks, primarily because of the fact that you aren't guaranteed to win any of the games that you go into.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that you're having to do 5 of them as opposed to 3 or 1. So it created this massive disconnect where you don't want to do the PvP grind because you aren't guaranteed a set amount of time to allocate to this, where by this time, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
It could take, you could do it very quickly, it could take forever.
Yeah. I think there's a huge amount of difference between setting up prerequisites that the player has to work for and setting up prerequisites that you punish the player for. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they have, in Forsaken, they have actually found a way of fixing this.
Good.
There was a weapon in Destiny 2 called Redrix's Claymore.
Right.
Out of the entire player base, of which there are numerous people, probably millions, I would say.
Yeah.
8,000 people got this gun.
Wow.
Out of millions. The reason why is because you had to go into the competitive mode and reach a certain rank, which I think was rank 3.
Right.
You start off at 0, and as you won, you got points, and the more points, if you got enough points, your rank would increase. And as the ranks increased, you needed more points to actually increase the rank. If you lost a game, then you would lose points.
Yeah. Oh, right. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You can imagine that trying to get to rank 3, starting from 0, is going to take a fair bit of time and effort.
Yeah.
That a lot of people couldn't get this gun, or they couldn't be bothered to even try. And admittedly, I was in the last category because I was just like, I can't be bothered with that. That is just a waste. And the funny thing is the gun ended up being very mediocre in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I say mediocre. It was good, but it certainly wasn't worth the amount of effort that it took to get it. Considering this is the hardest gun to get in the entire game, and so few people had it, you'd expect it to be absolutely balls to the wall amazing, and it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So what they did was, realizing this issue for Forsaken, they were like, okay, we're going to re-release this as Redrix's Broadsword. And you've got this massive long quest. You've got this quest line that you need to do in order to get the Redrix's Broadsword. And people are like, wait a minute, if we put all this effort into getting the Redrix's Claymore first, isn't that kind of a slap in the face that now all they need to do is to do this quest line?
Yeah.
That's what people thought. And then Bungie were like, but if you already have the Redrix's Claymore, then you can get this gun straight away.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can have this. Also, if you did get the Redrix's Claymore, you get this fancy emblem to say that you got it.
Okay. Yeah, I like
and nobody else gets that. So you have a reward to say, yeah, I got this when it was hard to get.
Yeah.
And you also have immediate access to this other gun, the Redrix's Broadsword, which is basically like a redo of the Claymore, admittedly, but with slightly different perks. It's got like randomized perks on it, so it could be slightly better, potentially. But you have access to this straight away. You know, these guns are going to start dropping for you immediately. Anyone else wants them, they've got to go through this quest line to do it.
Gotcha.
So then people look at the quest line. It's massive.
Wow.
But it's massive, but at the same time, you can kind of tell there is a fixed set time to do it. It's literally like get 100 kills with a pulse rifle. Next step, complete 5 matches. Next step, get 150 precision kills with the pulse rifle. Next game, complete your Valor rank. Next quest, do 25 matches in each different mode. Next one, reset your Valor rank 5 times, and it goes on like that and that. All of those things that you can do just by playing it.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of how poorly or otherwise that you do, you're still going to be able to progress through all of these. It's just going to take longer if you do play like crap.
Yeah.
But every single game that you go into, you're going to be able to progress these these quests.
Makes sense.
Regardless of whether you win or lose, regardless of whether you do horribly or otherwise, you're still going to be able to make progress through the quest. Excuse me.
It's all right.
And it's quite... And the thing is, this is going to take ages. Like, when people looked at it, resetting Valor rank once takes a long time. Bungie actually calculated by saying that with the current experience as it is, if you were to play Crucible for 6 hours a day, every day, and win every single match, it would take 26 days for you to reset your Valor once.
Gosh.
They aren't lying. It does take a long time.
Yeah.
In order to get this gun, and this is the last of numerous quests, you have to have reset your Valor 5 times. That is over 100 days of 6 hours each, where you win every single game.
That's ridiculous. That is.
It is, but at the same time, Bungie have kind of said, well, you know, we didn't want to just dick over the Claymore people. You know, we wanted it so that if you want this broadsword, you're gonna have to work for it to make up for the fact that we're giving we're giving you a second chance at this. You know, so the Claymore people were like, okay, I'm all right with this now. It's fine. We're all right with that. We're cool with this now. That you've got to go through all of that to actually get the thing. And I think that's the best way to do it, you know, is you've given an option where the time that you invest is always going to give you something back out of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you still have to put in a large amount of time to make up for the fact that, you know, the other people did it the hard way. If Pokemon did something like that, where all the time that you put in, you're getting something back out of it, and it's not just pure luck.
Yeah.
That's going to encourage a lot more people to actually invest time into making these teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you had, say, some sort of quest line where you could complete some objectives and then that would, say, guarantee you a particular nature. Say you got to choose it at the end of the quest line. And then you did that and you then got to go and fight the legendary and then it is full IVs, perfect nature, whatever you want. Yeah, that would be fine because it would be something you're doing in the game. You're playing the game as it's intended to be
you're
played.
interacting with it. Or like maybe say, for example, you've got to do a quest line. You've got to beat a certain number of people or catch a certain Pokemon or find a certain number of, you know, items or something like that. Yeah. And eventually at the end of it, you get this, like, you get an item. It gives you this item. And when you use this item, the next Pokemon you find is going to have perfect IVs and everything. Yeah. Something like that. It's like, you're putting in time. You know, you're having to invest time into the game in order to get to this end result. But at the end of it, you know exactly what you're going to get. You know you're going to get the perfect result which you've been looking for by doing this. You know?
The only thing I'd say about that is, of course, random encounters are still a thing. So you'd have to kill those
obviously,
first.
I would say for something like that, it would have to be like, say, for like a legendary or something.
Yeah, it would have to only work on, say,
or maybe have it as like a timed item or something like that, so it exists in your inventory for like an hour, and then every Pokemon you find after that has perfect IVs. But then after that, the item disappears, and then you've got to go get another one.
Yeah, that would work. I mean,
which requires you to go through another set of requirements in the quest or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're sort of talking about potentially just giving Pokemon the idea of MMO-style quests, which, honestly, I'd be completely fine with.
I mean, to me, a lot of people have already said that they want to see Pokemon. They would like to see a Pokemon MMO or whatever. Yeah, it kind of already is one.
I think so. I think Gen 6, especially with the way its online system worked, it's kind of a online game where you don't necessarily interact with other players, but they're basically there. You know, they're
the
not.
Players still there. There is still the potential of interactivity throughout that you can have with loads of other people, really. Yeah. With anyone. So to me, it's kind of already at. It's kind of already at the.
I think
at the MMO stage, in a sense.
Yeah, I think what it needs, honestly, is to become kind of the Pokemon MMO we want. I think there's obviously, you might say, oh, well, I want to be able to run around in a world and have, you know, everyone else in the world as well. I think that's never been the goal. And I think
I don't think it would necessarily benefit from that either, to be honest.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So I think kind of Gen 6 was getting quite close with that. But I think it should be, give you the option to be online.
Yeah.
In your world. It should have ongoing content.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, new dungeons open up, new kind of quests appear, you know, maybe some kind of daily thing that you can do to get something out of it. And they would have to provide commensurate awards, you know, rewards to actually do it. I don't know what those would be in a Pokemon game.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But you'd have to have something to do with it, you know. Proper...
I mean, one thing
Sorry.
Mentioned in I mentioned this in a previous video, and I know some people in the chat kind of went, "Whoa, that'd be amazing if they did something like." Would be for a future Pokemon game to have a world akin to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Where it's that open and you've got that aspect of exploration. You can just go out into that world and find all the Pokemon that you want and battle gyms and go to towns. Because obviously there's towns in Breath of the Wild as well. So, you know, and cities and stuff like that. The idea, I know to some people the idea of like, whoa, that sounds awesome. Which of course it is, because I suggested it. Of course it's awesome. But even that though, you wouldn't need there to be like every single other player around there at once.
No, it would make it worse.
Yeah, it would be better if you kind of had that world to yourself, I think. But there was like an online sort of lobby that you could then access where everybody else is, and then you could kind of interact with people.
What I would want, this leads into the second thing I was thinking of, is I don't necessarily know if I'd want to have like a lobby. And then that's obviously, that's where the way it always used to work in Pokemon, and it works fine and I'm happy with it. What I would like the ability to do is to have almost like the Animal Crossing gate system. I don't know if you've played Animal Crossing. I'll assume you haven't.
No.
Basically, you can flip a switch in Animal Crossing, and other players can enter your instance of the game. So in Animal Crossing, obviously, that means coming into your town specifically. Yeah. But I think in Pokemon, it would basically mean being able to have your friends in the world with you, with their trainers, with their Pokemon, which is obviously distinct from the Let's Go implementation. Which is a good first start. Which is a good first go, has to be said. Yeah. So that you can do things in the world together. And again, this is where you sort of have to lean on the more MMO-y type things. Where, again, I don't know how this would work, but it would be nice to have content where you could play it with 2 players.
Yes.
Or if you chose to, and you...
Well, they're doing that with Let's Go, aren't they?
They are, it's a very, very kind of, like I say, it's a very early sort of crack at the functionality. It's not, I don't think, actually I don't know how it works, because you pick up...
It does lend into what myself and Bal have said, where and he agrees with me when I suggested this to him, that the Let's Go games are prototypes for something bigger.
I agree, yeah. I think they've more or less said that even. Which is
in so many words. I don't think they've outright said it.
Yeah, no, they haven't outright said it.
But Nintendo generally do that. They imply a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they want to turn around and say, yeah, this is basically a beta test for a future Pokemon game. Yeah,
because obviously then that's going to make the game look like crap, and obviously they don't want that.
No,
they've implied that I think that they are intending for because obviously they've mentioned that there's going to be a main series game coming up in 2019. They've already outright said that. And it does feel to me like Let's Go is kind of like they're using new mechanics in Let's Go and possibly saying, could we carry some of those across into this next game?
Yeah, I think the worst thing they could do with Let's Go is bottle it and just completely scrap it and go back to what we had before.
Yeah, I think Let's Go, they need to be pushing the boundaries with Let's Go. I think that you don't want to be afraid to make change. I mean, you've already kind of gone down the route of this isn't a main series game. It's, it's something different. Be different, don't try and tie it down to what people want it to be. Try and do something different. Use this as an opportunity to sort of go, well, okay, what can we do in the future?
Yeah.
Because people do want change, and I think that you know, even though I said change for the sake of change earlier is not a good thing, I don't feel like this would be the case. I feel like the series does need a reboot now.
I think so. I don't think it needs a reboot per se, because I think that implies more drastic change than it'll get.
Yeah, I'd say reboot's what the one. It needs a
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it needs sort of like a breath of fresh air, should we say? Something new. You know, a bit of a mix-up. You know, obviously Breath of the Wild, because obviously it was a sandboxy sort of experience, which, you know, Zelda has never really been sandbox. You've always been fairly railroaded, really, due to needing certain items to get to certain areas. Whereas Breath of the Wild's like, you can go here, but you probably shouldn't without this.
Yeah, I think what I liked about Breath of the Wild was that it didn't get away from what Zelda is all about in terms of the mythology of it, and even some of the basic mechanics. Like the combat is not that massively changed, to be honest.
Yeah, it still feels like a Zelda game.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think
you have an element of exploration to it.
And the smart thing they did was to pick up every individual piece of the game. They broke it down into its constituent parts. You know, here's the items, here's the progression, here's the dungeons, here's this and that and the other, and they picked every single one up and they looked at it and went, do we need this? And they kind of went, well, okay, do we need Link to get a succession of items during the game that, you know, is fixed and you get one in each dungeon and that's great? Well, no, we don't need that. Actually, it works better to be able to find things like that. You know, do we need a set of dungeons that, again, you do, you know, maybe not in a particular order, but you do each of these big sort of several-hour-long dungeons, and then you come out with something new. No, actually, you don't really need that. You know, do we need, you know, Link and Zelda and Ganon? Yes, we do.
Well, yeah, you kind of can't not have them, really. I mean, it's...
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to see is Pokemon do the same thing. Maybe not so drastically, although I would certainly not object to them trying out the kind of true open world concept.
Yeah.
But I think take a look at things like, okay, do we really need random encounters? Well, actually, no, let's maybe try overworld Pokemon.
Yeah, because I think that because the thing is, not only because the thing is that overworld is obviously a lot of what was appealing for me, at least, with Breath of the Wild's overworld is just how nice it looked and how much there was in it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And how much there was that you could interact with, and how much there was that you could see and explore. It made you want to see the rest of it, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of sandbox games run into the issue where, yes, you can explore the whole world, but it doesn't give you a reason to want to.
Very much so, yeah.
Whereas Breath of the Wild did, you were just like, wow, this looks amazing. What else is around here? And for that reason alone, you want to explore. Monster Hunter World kind of did it as well, where you've got this big open island, all these creatures on it, and it's like, oh yeah, this looks nice. Let's have a bit of a wander, and you know, whilst you're doing things, you can have a bit of a wander around and see what else there is that you can find, what other monsters and creatures you can find, and other environments that you can see.
Yeah.
If Pokemon did that, and then you had like the wild Pokemon in the overworld, to give it some life, you know, and so there's something you can interact with in the overworld, and something that visually, you know, adds to it.
Yeah. The reason I didn't sort of agree with the idea of a reboot for Pokemon, or calling it a reboot at least, is I think it needs to expand on what it's already got. And I don't mean the battle system, which I think is more or less fine now, you know.
Yeah, the battle system can kind of stay as it is, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think changing it now would be a bad idea.
I don't mind refinements. I don't mind maybe taking a few things and simplifying it, like the IV and EV thing we've been talking about, you know.
Yeah. But stuff like the type alignments, 4 moves, you learn the moves while leveling up, you evolve by leveling up, etc. That can stay the same.
I think so, definitely. Yeah, I think there's, you know, been rumors that they'll try something else, and I mean, I'm happy to see them give it a go, but I don't think it would work. I think it would be a terrible idea. But the overworld is always the most neglected part of Pokemon, because it's not any different than it was 20 years ago. It's just prettier.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the ability to run now. Whoop-de-doo. You know, no, I want to see...
That's been there since Gen 3.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even if we don't see the whole truly open world situation, which, again, I would like to see them try. I don't know if it would work as well as we'd like it to, because Pokemon is turn-based, and because of the mechanics that have to factor into that. But what I would like to see is, at the moment, you go along a route, and then you reach the end of the route, and you might fight a few Pokemon, fight a few trainers in the middle, but you're going from point A to point B, and that's all you have to do. Sun and Moon revolutionized this by making it so that there were certain trainers where you had to fight the rest of the trainers first before you could fight them. Wow, big deal.
Yeah.
And there were certain NPCs lying around where they wanted you to show them a particular Pokemon. Oh, wow. Great. Wonderful. How fantastic. You know,
Yeah, I didn't like that. It kind of... And I wasn't initially a big fan of this until I kind of learnt to appreciate it a bit more after playing it. It reminded me of the rooms in the Doom reboot, where you had to kill all the creatures in the room before you could progress to the next section.
Yes.
I wasn't initially a fan of that, just the fact that it kind of flew straight in the face of what the original did, where you kind of had the choice in every single room as to how much you killed and whether you even bothered to kill anything at all. It always gave you the option.
Yeah.
Whereas the reboot did not. And until I kind of realised, wait, killing stuff in this game is actually really fun, why the hell would I not want to kill everything in the room?
Yeah.
At that point, I was kind of like, okay, fair enough. I probably would just stay in this room and kill everything anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
I didn't like it in Sun and Moon for that exact same reason. It's kind of forcing you to stay in the zone and do this. Like, there's no alternate option, really.
Yeah. I'd like to see more to do. And I think just add a quest system. You know, it's as simple as that. Just look at any JRPG or any other game even. Because how many games don't have some sort of objective tracker these days?
Yeah.
Rip it off wholesale. And then have things that you can do within the game if you choose to.
Yeah.
You know, bonus points, make it more interesting than fight 5 horsey. But even then, you know, there's so much more that you can do by kind of incentivizing the player to spend more time in the world than just rushing through and getting to the other end of the route, or, you know, fighting the gym and moving on.
Yeah.
And if implemented right, it could add a lot more interest to the game. And it could be like, there could be a quest which basically says, you know, go and find this thing in this cave, which would give you a reason to visit a cave that you might otherwise ignore.
Yeah.
Although, please improve the caves before you do that.
yeah.
But there's
a lot of things. The point is, there's a lot of things that they can potentially do.
Of course, there is, and I don't think they need to throw the baby out with the bathwater in order to do that.
No, they don't. It's and I think that they need to. It would be good if they used the Let's Go games as sort of a first step in.
I agree,
You know,
and I think Let's Go.
trying stuff like this.
What we were hoping from Let's Go, what I was hoping from Let's Go, was that they would take the opportunity to take the risks that they wouldn't want to in a main series Pokemon game, and do too much, as it were. You know, like completely rip out things that perhaps they shouldn't rip out, and then they would see what happens if you do that.
Yeah, because with Let's Go, I feel like it is safe. Let's Go is a safe game. It is safe for them to start messing around, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Because of the fact that it's not a main series game. They could mess around. You can sort of take liberties with it and push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And, you know, and do things like that. And for that reason, they should use that opportunity to, you know, to push the boundaries and see what works and what doesn't. Again, it's going back to the same point about people, if you're a casual player, wanting to use, you know, new Pokemon, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Just go for it anyway and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Game Freak need to do that. They need to throw ideas at the wall, see what sticks, and Let's Go is the best opportunity for them to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether they see it that way.
And to their credit, they are kind of doing that. There's a lot of things in Let's Go where there are some pretty fundamental changes to the formula. Things like, I mean, this is ridiculously tiny, but it's such a big deal. You can now rename a Pokemon whenever you want.
Yeah.
Why has that not been the case for 20 years? Why has that not been the case since Gen 2 or Gen 3? You know,
don't know.
Let's say that the Game Boy engine was a bit too creaky and fell apart too often. Fair enough. They rebuilt it entirely for the GBA. Why hasn't that been the case since Gen 3?
No idea.
You know, you've got, and in bigger, you know, more climactic news, you can now access the box anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal when it comes to...
I mean, the funny thing is like, you know, from like, being able to access the PC from anywhere, when you think about today's technology, like, it's not really that far thrown off from it.
Well, yeah. But even from the gameplay perspective, you know, that's a big change. That might not necessarily work as well because it might make the game too easy. I don't know. But frankly, I want them to try because that's a convenience I want to have in the game.
Yeah, you never know.
If it would possibly work, I want it. You know, things like sorry.
Yeah. Again, it's going back to the whole idea. It's like they, you know, again, it's like if it doesn't work in Let's Go, it's not going to be. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
is the point.
Absolutely. You know.
So they should take advantage of that. Just throw ideas. Or even if it seems crazy.
Yeah. You know, having Pokemon in the overworld rather than in random encounters, huge, major thing. Could be fantastic. Could make all the difference in the world, and would be, and I hope to see it stay. But if you know, but this is the game in which to do it. Even things like, I don't know if anyone is particularly pleased with this, but the idea of not battling wild Pokemon, instead having the catch kind of mechanic from Pokemon Go.
Yeah, even then, it's still an idea. It's still it's not like they've turned it into a first-person shooter. You know,
I'd play that. But no, I mean I agree. It's not necessarily, you know, the best idea in the world. I'm not necessarily 100% fond of it, but I will fight to the death for their right to make those. To try those experiments and see what happens. Because do you know what? I might try it in game and think, yeah, actually this works. I like it. I like the way that it all interacts with the rest of the game because we haven't really seen much of that yet.
Not really, no. And I think it is. It would be kind of. There's a lot of potential there.
There is.
For new ideas.
I think you would be remiss to kind of just dismiss it entirely without having tried it.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, I think saying that can sometimes be a cop-out, just don't complain about it because you haven't tried it. You know, sometimes things are objectively bad ideas. In this case, I do want to try it. I do think people should try it and see what it's like. If it's terrible, fair enough. You know, yell at Game Freak, they'll change it back for 19, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, but if it works, fantastic, and I want to see it.
This is the opportunity for them to try these sorts of things.
Absolutely. You know, and I think it's interesting because I am seeing a lot of people that don't, let's be charitable, don't like the idea of Let's Go. And I think all I would like to say to them is, you know, give it a go.
Yeah.
Let's try it out.
So I mean, this is how you make progression effectively, is by doing stuff like this.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
But as I say, I guess again, it's up to, at the end of the day, it's up to Game Freak as to how much they decide to do, and how much stuff they want to throw at the wall, how many ideas they want to implement. But personally, I'm hoping that they just go whole hog and just decide to just go nuts with it and try as much stuff out as they can, and see what they can make work. I mean, for all we know, we don't know how far in development the 2019 game even is. I imagine going by Nintendo's usual technique, shall we say, it's probably been in development for quite some time.
Yeah, I think it's been in development for a couple of years now. I think.
Yeah, because I've heard that Smash Ultimate has been in development since the DLC characters for Smash 4 were being made.
I believe that, yeah. I think that probably they split into two teams. Small team for the DLC, big team for Ultimate. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, which would mean that Ultimate's pretty much been in development for like 3 years or something, I think.
Yeah, I think that sort of the downside to what we've all been saying is we've kind of been saying, oh, well, you know, let them try things because they can always fix it for 2019. They actually can't. By the time...
I suppose it also is, of going back to Smash Ultimate, is when they revealed Ridley, the game was in a playable state.
Yeah.
You know, and Ridley wasn't revealed that much time after the game itself was revealed.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was like a matter of months, barely.
Yeah, it was. What was it? Because it was E3 when everything was finally blown up. You know, blown open. Where we got Ridley, we got the next.
But E3 was Ridley.
And I think it was. What was it? It was the end of the last Direct, I think. Which I think
it was a Nintendo Direct where they revealed Smash Ultimate, and it was E3 where they revealed Ridley.
Yeah, it was like March, April time, I think.
Yeah.
For this Direct, so it wasn't. You know, it wasn't.
And it was like June, July for like E3. I can't remember which.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But I know. I think the thing with Pokemon, 2019, is by the time they've taken the feedback on board from Let's Go, let's say the game comes out in November. Let's say it takes a couple of months for them to sort of collate all the feedback and read all the socials, because it probably would. You're talking February. The game is basically feature complete. The game is basically done. It's going into final Q&A by then.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't said exactly when in 2019 they're releasing it, I don't think.
I think if it's not November, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, November is kind of a popular time of the year for Pokemon releases, I think.
Yeah, well, it's been November since X and Y, so for the last 5 years now. So I can't see that changing. I mean, they could potentially bump it if they wanted to. If they were doing something and they drastically needed to change it, they could delay it into March.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would. I think they don't consider it... They don't consider these deadlines immovable anymore, like they used to.
Yeah, I mean, they're strange that way, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I really would wish they'd go back to where they would delay the game and finish it, rather than push out a half-finished game and then, it's the old maxim, Shigeru Miyamoto even, so they should know this, is one of theirs. A delayed game is eventually good.
Yeah.
A rushed game is bad forever.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, even I would say that statement even stands true now, even after we've got stuff like patches, because first impressions mean a lot.
I agree. If you look at No Man's Sky, which is now a finished game that's actually quite good, how many people are getting back into No Man's Sky or buying No Man's Sky for the first time now?
Not
the next
many.
update? Yeah, not enough.
Because their initial view of it has already been tarnished to the point where they think this is not going to be worth it.
Yeah, No Man's Sky in the public, in the public zeitgeist is now bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's not bad anymore, that it's actually finished and it's quite good.
Exactly.
It was released too early.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people are not going to spend money on a game that they expect is going to be bad, unless they're me. But I'm very much in the minority there. Son.
Well, I think you know what you're getting at, but you're still going to get...
Yeah, I know what I'm getting myself into is the point. Like, when I buy Daikatana, it's like, I know full well what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
With No Man's Sky, you're not going to be buying it with the intention of buying a pile of rubbish,
Yeah, I think people were buying No Man's Sky with the hopes of getting, either a really good space sim or Minecraft in space.
Yeah,
and
it's the difference between buying No Man's Sky now and, say, like, buying... Sonic Boom now.
Yeah.
With Sonic Boom, you're buying it because it's terrible and you want to laugh at it.
Yeah.
With No Man's Sky, you're buying it because you're told that it's been improved. But at the same time, you're going to be thinking to yourself, well, it was pretty bad. Is it, you're going to take it you're going to be very, very skeptical at it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have trouble thinking at all, really, because you're not really going to pay attention to it. Look at the number of games that are coming out in the next, 4 months.
Yeah.
And how, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Red Dead, you've got Pokemon, you've got, I suppose you've got Call of Duty. You've got a Battlefield game.
Black Ops 4.
You've got a Battlefield game, again, if you like. There's so much I'm forgetting. Life is Strange 2, there's Just Cause 4, there's... Anyway, etc, etc, etc. How many people really, especially if you're not deeply embedded in the video game space, like we are, how many people are going to remember No Man's Sky exists amongst that particular barrage of games? They're not. They're going to buy Red Dead and be happy with it.
They will know what it is. They're just not going to care.
Well, exactly, and they might
because
not.
They've got no reason to care.
Or they might not even hear that it's got the next update.
Well, I didn't.
No.
I literally did not know it had been updated until Alex told me it had been.
Yeah.
I didn't even see it online. Even the internet didn't tell me that it had been updated.
I think I'm the same, honestly.
I've got like a news thing on my phone which kind of it feeds me articles based off of present events and stuff that I might have searched. It's not particularly good at it, so it gives me some things that are fairly random. But at the same time, because of that, it gives me things that I might never have noticed otherwise. You never mentioned No Man's Sky.
No, I think I might have seen it on Eurogamer eventually. But again, that's a specialist gaming website, and I specifically go there because I want to stay up to date with the gaming community.
You go there,
Yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't really bother to follow them that much because I just don't care.
Yeah.
As I say, I didn't know that No Man's Sky even got an update.
No, I must admit, the one thing it did have in its favour was that it did cause quite a bit of rumbling on Twitter about it. Quite a lot of people in the gaming space, quite a lot of people in the gaming space started talking about it after it was updated, because they started sharing their experiences, sharing their stories with it. So in that element, it worked in terms of putting out a big update, building the hype again. But you're still having a lot less interest in it now than you did 2 years ago, because No Man's Sky is now associated with big failure.
Yeah.
You know,
it's associated with people releasing incomplete games.
Yeah, Sean Murray is not his name is muttered not in the same breath as, you know, Miyamoto and Tim Schafer and all the other
He's
greats.
a pariah, let's be honest.
Yeah, his name is muttered in the same breath as Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, and he can just go to hell.
Yeah, both men who have made good games, for sure. But,
has Peter Molyneux made anything?
Oh, he was the guy behind Bullfrog back in the day, so yeah. The theme games.
Now he's just known as the guy who chats crap.
Well, he's known as the goddess guy.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's reached a point now, and it says a lot about his reputation, that any game that he talks about, can guarantee that 100% it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. But this is the weird thing, because Molyneux, up until, I suppose, just before the Fable days, his name was synonymous with the God game.
Yeah.
Which was beloved. You know, he would say, I'm working on Black and White. And the internet went, ooh, hang on. Okay, fair enough. You know, this guy's good. This guy brought us Theme Hospital. You know, and all these, and Dungeon Keeper and all these wonderful games that we loved so much. Yeah. Populous originally, you know. We're interested. We want to see this, you know. Even after Black and White, it was a little bit overhyped, but it tried its best, you know. People kind of forgave him for it. And then he started saying things like, oh, in Fable, the original Fable, you know, you can plant an acorn and it will grow into a mighty oak. And of course you can't. Of course you can't. Some of the promise got made up a little bit in Fable 2, but that's not how you do it. You know,
and so at that point he'd already tarnished his own reputation by being known as a bullshitter.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, is I mean, at this point, I pretty much saw him as just basically a liar for all intents and purposes. I saw him as a liar. And then there was some article which I saw years and years ago, but it was after the whole thing with like Fable 3, where at that point I was just like, yeah, you are full of shit. Where he said that crunch was a good thing. At that point, I was like, show yourself the door. At that point, it's like, you do not belong in the games industry anymore. Get out. You need to leave. There's no space for you here anymore. And he shouldn't be working in the games industry anymore. Not after saying something like that. Because that is the most factually inaccurate. I am very much of the belief that crunch is the primary reason why today's AAA games are so mediocre.
I agree, honestly, and I didn't know he said that. And
he did
until you said those words just then. I was quite happy to be counted as something of a Peter Molyneux apologist. Not completely, you know, because I will quite happily call him out for the stupid things he said.
Yeah.
But that, honestly, is totally and utterly indefensible. There is no way I could feasibly think, I can turn around and somehow argue, you know, devil's advocate argue that the crunch is somehow...
There is no devil's advocate argument, because at the end of the day, it's like, you could say crunch helps these games come out on time. Yeah, it also makes them terrible when they come out.
Well, I mean, that's not how you run a team. Any industry that knows how to treat its employees right, and there aren't that many, but any team that knows how to be, you know, where the people in charge know how to manage it, you've got to let your employees have a rest. You've got to let your employees work at a pace that is healthy, so they don't burn out, so they don't make mistakes. You know, it is a known fact, not often remembered, but known in the programming world, at least in the web world where I am, where if you make someone do overtime, you can make them do maybe an hour's worth of overtime and they'll still work at, say, 80% the normal efficiency. Beyond that, diminishing returns, exponentially so. if you tell someone, yeah, work all evening, by the time they're a few hours into the overtime, they're working at maybe 10% what they should be.
Yeah.
If you just and then the next day they'll be working at 10% of what they should be because they'll be really tired.
Yeah.
If you say no overtime, go sleep, come in tomorrow, sort it out, they'll come in tomorrow refreshed, they'll be working at full speed again. They will get the work done, I guarantee you, quicker if you say no overtime, go home, sleep, and they come in the next day and they'll finish it. They'll get it done quicker than if you get them working all night.
Yeah.
Because they'll still be at it in the morning and they won't have gotten as far.
And they're actually going to have... Their mindset is going to be a lot more positive towards it as well. They're going to actually care about putting out a good product as opposed to, let's just get this out of the way so I can actually have a rest.
Yeah.
You know, I genuinely believe that a lot of the time, because a lot of today's AAA games genuinely feel, and the best word I can describe them is soulless.
Yeah, manufactured by committee, I suppose.
Pretty much, yeah. There's no care to them. And with an indie game, you can tell that there's some element of care to it.
Yeah.
Whereas AAA games, you can tell there's just nothing there.
Yeah, there's gloss and there's flash, but there's no actual substance to it.
Exactly. It's like, because they don't care. They've been burnt out so much that they can't care anymore. Like, the caring element is gone. They just want this game out of their life now. Because they never have to look at it again. And then move on to the next thing.
Which is probably the same game again.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's what crunch does to people.
Yeah.
That's like, because you're literally just burning all their life away. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of, you know, and people have said, like, because I've got a degree in games design, and people actually said, like, isn't it a waste that you decided not to work in the games industry? And I was thinking, hell no. I'm glad that I made that choice.
Yeah.
Because after seeing that, ain't worth it. I do not want anything to do with that industry, knowing that that's the kind of stuff that goes on in it. It sounds like hell.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I did seriously consider. Same thing, you know, I got into programming, I got into web work, and initially my plan was, okay, I'll do web work, and then I'll reskill over, learn a gaming language, learn Unity or something, get into the games world, and then I don't know how to use Unity. Let's put it that way. I
mean, I could probably learn how to use Unity if I really, really wanted to. The thing is, I don't.
No, I don't either, honestly. And I think, yeah, maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I'll be, you know, inspired and want to make a game by myself or whatever. But if I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll go and work for Team 17 because they're pretty close. They're just in Wakefield, so just, you know, train ride away basically. And I thought, well, maybe. And Team 17 aren't even the worst company to work for.
Well, Codemasters is quite. I mean, they're not close to me. They're in Leamington Spa, which isn't too far away.
Yeah.
From where I am, it's still a decent about an hour trip, but it's not like, you know, an arduous hour trip really. It's doable.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it's like, would I want to? No.
Well, I mean, it says a lot, honestly, that I would be better treated and a lot happier making marketing apps for banks, which is what I'm doing right now, than working on video games, even video games that I love. You know.
Well, it's like, 'cause the thing is, I work in car insurance.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that I hate cars.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people even said, like, why are you here? Like, you're a university graduate. Why are you here? You did games design. Why the hell are you here? Why aren't you off the dream? Why going to games? That dream is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's pretty much my exact words to them. It's like, that is the kind of industry you do not want to ever work in. Like, if you think that this job that you have, the one that I have, is worse than that, you haven't seen it. You have no idea. It's like, it is not worth it at all. And it was kind of interesting to see some of the lecturers who had worked in the games industry trying to say, oh, this is a great job, you know, this is what you're working so hard for, you really want to work so hard for this job, but at the same time they're also saying, yeah, this is absolute hell and it's going to destroy your life. And it's like, okay, it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
Either I really want this job or it's complete hell. You can't say both. The problem is they were trying to say both.
Yeah.
And in saying both, it was quite obvious what the real truth was under it, and that's that it is just hell. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this. Like, I do not want to work for a games company ever. and I can say, unless the only way I would ever want to do it is if they paid me an absolutely ridiculous amount, which they won't.
Yeah, I would if they had and could prove they had working practices equivalent to a good software house, i.e., 9 to 5, and then you get to go home.
Yeah.
You know, all the time, like no exceptions, no 6 months of crunch, not even 2 weeks of crunch. You know,
there's no crunch for me. Any crunch is like no.
I agree.
Like,
I agree, and that's a problem with the software industry as well, where there is still the idea that, you know, if deadlines get a bit hairy, then you just buy pizza and get everyone to stay up until 11 in the evening. But like that might happen for a week, maybe 2. Yeah. And even then, that's too much. You know, if your employees don't feel like they can go home at 5 o'clock or 5:30 at the end of the day, then I would say that's a failure of management.
It is.
Like, it's a total and utter inexcusable failure of management.
I think time management is a key thing in pretty much any industry, and the way I see it is if you are having to go into crunch time, your time management is bad.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously the publishers in games, you know, the publishers don't care, you know, because they don't have to. And to me, like I've always felt that publishers are the biggest contributor to shit games, especially AAA ones.
Yeah.
Like, they are everything wrong with the games industry right now. If you took publishers out of the equation, I mean, and yeah, you could argue, yeah, you need them to advertise and stuff like that. But at this point, it's like, yeah, you're advertising garbage. Like,
I only have one sort of minor argument with that, and I think you're right. But I have 2 names that I would like to offer you as argument, which is John Romero and George Broussard. Both of whom were untroubled by publisher demands.
Yeah.
And then went on to produce Duke Nukem Forever and Daikatana.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I feel like the issue with them was, yeah, a publisher would have stopped them from doing what they did.
Yeah. Very
effectively. But at the same time, a lot of developers also have the sense to not do what they did as well by themselves.
I agree. I think it's a little bit of a facetious argument for sure. But I think,
as I say, with Romero, it was ego. You could tell. Like,
yeah, it was for Broussard as well.
Yeah, the success of Doom and Quake had gone to his head. With Broussard, the success of Duke Nukem had gone to his head. You know, it's all ego. Their lack of hubris pretty much got the better of them, and they pretty much owned themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and as you say, yeah, a publisher definitely would have stopped anything like that from happening. But you know, the publisher shouldn't have to stop that from happening. It should be John Romero and George Broussard who should be stopping that from happening.
Yeah, I think the issue is, again, it's a failure of management, which of publishers.
But John Romero was the manager.
Exactly, and it's the same thing. I mean, I wouldn't lay money on it, but like, I'm close to it. I reckon we're going to see exactly the same thing in a few years when Hideo Kojima finally gets to the point where he should be releasing his game.
Yeah.
You know, we don't necessarily know what Death Stranding is yet, which is silly.
I'll be honest, I don't even care.
No, I don't either, really. But as far as we can tell, it's some sort of weird survival horror-y thing. But the problem is that
makes me care even less.
Yeah. The problem you get is that someone has just given him a effectively blank check and as much time as he wants, and I firmly believe that the only reason that half the Metal Gear games ever got released was because the publisher stepped in and went, release it, please. You know, get on with it. You've got 3 months. Put it out the door. Obviously, they did that with 5, and it ruined it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, you know, so that's kind of the pitfall of it. But I think, how long would Metal Gear Solid 4 have taken to come out had Konami not said, yeah, you've got to actually release this game at some point? And again, failure of management. Publishers aren't necessarily the cast iron answer to that. The answer is basically someone like Kojima, someone like Broussard, someone like Romero has to have someone who is telling them, you've got to get this game out. You know, you've got to actually ship things. You've got to actually care.
I think you don't necessarily need a publisher to do that, although it certainly helps. But that really should be all the publisher does. You know,
Yeah.
they should not be imposing such ridiculous limitations. I mean, you could argue that Activision is to blame for how poor Destiny's QA has been throughout its lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with that.
I do feel that it's a bit misleading to imply that it's entirely Activision's fault. I do feel that Bungie should be held accountable for the fact that they haven't bothered to fix certain things for years.
Again, I think failure in management, really.
I do, yeah,
Both.
I do agree with that. But at the same time, some of it is very silly that they leave in, like the Gauntlet exploit where you can literally walk backwards over the finish line to beat it.
That's ridiculous, though. And it's just...
Like, how long does it take to test that?
Well, depends how long it takes them to load up the map editor.
Well, granted, you have to get through the entire first section of the Gauntlet first, and
Just
if Bungie's live streams are anything to go by, a lot of them are not particularly good at playing it.
I think the problem ends up being that, you know, you've got the dual issue where you've got pressure from Activision to ship, and not necessarily ship things that are working, but just have bullet points to check off, you know. And I think you've got the Bungie's managers, A, aren't willing to push back on Activision, or can't for whatever reason, and B, aren't willing to adapt their plans to include the QA they desperately need. They don't seem to think that the way their game is being released at the moment is a problem. Or if
I have a feeling, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not too privy with how many games Activision has published, but I know from Activision being Call of Duty is that issue is not going to be prevalent in Call of Duty due to the fact that Call of Duty effectively wipes its slate clean on an annual basis by releasing a new game.
That is true.
With Destiny, you don't have that luxury. You're stuck with that for years.
I think you've also there's another point, especially with Call of Duty, which is that most Call of Duty games, I think all of them, are pretty solid. Like, there's very little that gets through with Call of Duty that doesn't get patched within the first week. And some of that is because, the changes are relatively iterative, but it's also because the engine underneath is really solid. Like,
it is, and also I think what helps with Call of Duty as well is the fact that there isn't as much that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
It's fairly bog standard stuff. First person shooter. It's solid bog standard stuff, but it's still bog standard stuff.
Cool, yeah.
With Destiny, it's a different ball game because you've got a lot more weapons that do a lot more different things, and you've got a lot more armors and effects and enemies and what have you, etc. It's a much more complex game than any Call of Duty game is ever going to be, which means there's a lot more things that can potentially go wrong, and they do.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that.
And with Destiny 2 especially, I can't think of a single update, or a significant update at least, for Destiny 2 where there hasn't been some sort of bug.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's really bad.
It is.
Like, and it's not like little bugs either. It was like when Curse of Osiris came out and the Prometheus lens was just burning people to death in the Crucible, and they had to like, oh, we need to nerf the daylights out of this before we can fix it. And you had like the 3 of coins not working, and the colonies effect not working correctly on the PC because the frame rate was too high. And then you had what was it? Trying to think of other things. Whisper of the Worm, one of the most recent weapons. The white nail perk on that, where you have to, if you get 3 precision hits, it puts all 3 rounds back in the magazine. So you've got infinite ammo if you keep getting precision hits. That doesn't work properly either. Sometimes you'll get 3 precision hits and it just won't do it. Or you'll miss one of them and it gives you 3 rounds back anyway.
Wow.
It's like, it's such a mess. And it's like, dude, like the whole update was literally that gun.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work properly.
Gosh. Anyway, with that, I think we should probably go because it is
very late. We have run very much over time.
We have run about an hour over, yeah. Right, okay.
We've been sitting in the Pokemon Center standing there for about an hour.
Yeah. You know,
and we still have viewers.
We do. Weirdly enough, people are actually interested in listening to us talk. That's kind of weird.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around.
Do you know, after about
Appreciate it.
15 minutes of standing in there, I actually turned the music off. Just so it wouldn't annoy everyone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, again, keep an eye on the website and our social media channels. That's pokercharms.com and pokercharms on Twitter and Facebook for next week's schedule. But for us, it will be quite an exciting one, because next week will be the finale for Pokemon White. At least the main story. Yeah, so we're now at the Elite Four. We've got the just the Elite Four and the champion to beat.
Yeah.
Totally. And basically that will be it. I might end up doing a sort of bonus week where we go look at some of the post-game stuff. I haven't really decided yet. So
I will say that because Insomnia is next weekend, I might not be around on the Saturday, but we'll see how it goes.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'd be doing it on the Sunday anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
I need to think about what exactly I want to do. I should probably think about these things before I start these streams, but I didn't know how far I'd get, to be fair. I might decide... Yeah, I might decide to do a kind of a bumper issue next week. Do a sort of 3-hour jobby, just so we can get through the whole thing. Because there is quite a lot of content left.
We basically did a 3-hour...
We did, yeah, although an hour of it was spent standing in the Pokemon Center.
Yeah, talking about Pete Molyneux and how terrible he is.
Yeah, Victory Road was remarkably quick this time, which was kind of lucky.
It actually was. I was surprised at that.
I think I managed to choose the right paths every time.
Yeah, by pure luck, it was just like...
Yeah, I think if I could be bothered, I should have gone back and dug through all the items and stuff.
Yeah.
You noticed I jumped down the cliff at one point to see what the item was at the bottom, because I was thinking it was something useful. It was a nugget, so I reset. I think there's a couple of TMs in here that I really should get. I might see what's there and go and get it before the next stream. I think Earthquake's here somewhere.
I think it is.
Yeah, which I really, really, really need for Crocodile.
Yeah, when he evolves.
When he evolves eventually, yes. But, yeah, I think basically, apart from any off-screen grinding I may or may not do, we're basically ready to hit the final hurdle. So it'll be next week will be, I don't know who else is streaming. I'm sure someone else will be.
I'm going to try to, because I've kind of left it for so long and I've only managed to cram 2 episodes in, so I kind of need to pull my finger out a bit.
That would be good. But it will be the finale of Pokemon White. So be sure to tune in, because it's the interesting bit. Depending on how long I reckon it'll take to go through, it might well be a longer stream. But stay tuned. I'll let you all know. After we finish the game, like I say, I might do a bonus post-game stream where I look at some of the post-game stuff. I haven't decided yet. If we do or we don't, after I've done that, we'll be switching games. We'll be moving on to Pokemon White 2, which will be super cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you so much for everyone for watching and listening to us ramble on. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, guys.
See ya.